thanks, Rick. If I need to get in there, I'll give you a shout. Okay, folks, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We're missing Councillor Page at the moment. So I would like to start with the Aboriginal Acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge the land in which we gather, the traditional territory of the Kootenay, the Silix and Sinix peoples, and is home to Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honour the connection to the lands, rivers, and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. And with that, I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please. Moved by Councillor Morrison, Councillor Woodward second. All in favour? Carried. Thanks very much. Adoption of the minutes of the previous meeting. Mover and a seconder, Councillor Renwick and Councillor Woodward. All in favour? Next up is the Community Initiatives Program, otherwise known as the CIP program, and the funding allocations. And right now we're going to have Gabe pull the full screen up for everybody to see, including the public that may or may not be watching. So just bear with us for a moment, please. Oh, I got everybody on the top of the screen here, so that's good.
Yeah, so I think that should help facilitate the discussion.
Yeah, so I'm able to see everybody now on the top of the screen, and when Keith joins us, if he does, he'll be able to fit in there as well. There's a little gap for him too. So if you needed to speak at any point, then you're welcome to raise your hand and draw my attention. Bear with me because it's not easy to follow it on the screen sometimes. All right? Okay, Gabe, you're up.
Yeah, so I will just make a couple comments, and then really, as in years past, this is council's meeting. So this is the matrix we've used in the past. I did send it out ahead of time. I understand you may not have had a chance to review it, given that it was sent out this morning, and I was working on it last night, filling in with the different allocations. So what this matrix does is it sorts out, the more global matrix after seeing all of how you councillors and mayor allocated the funds. So as you know, there was $148,350 to allocate amongst the 60-some projects. Of those, there was the group one, which was the arts and culture group. Per council policy, typically council has allocated 25% of the funds to that group, and typically adopts the arts jury recommendation, although you don't have to do that. So that is the $37,088. So as you can see, those are up top. There were no councillors that did those allocations except Councillor Woodward. So anyways, this is what the jury, the arts jury is proposing. It adds up to that number of 37,088. Below that are the rest of the projects. And as you can see, they're grouped by how many votes, and when I say votes, how many councillors wanted to allocate funds. So for example, we could look at this one, Daybreak and City of Nelson, for the Rosemont Multi-Generational Project. All 7 councillors wanted to allocate some funds to that project. In this case, they all wanted to allocate the $10,000, which is what was requested. So that would be the starting point. A better example might be to look at, for example, the Bee Awareness Society, which 6 councillors wanted to allocate money. They were requesting $4,500. Some councillors wanted to allocate the full amount, but the starting point is the $2,500 because that takes into consideration what the 4th lowest amount of those 6 was, which is what you would need to have a consensus model, that being 4 out of 7 councillors. So I hope that makes sense, and I think in years past what we've done is we've started at the top, we've worked our way down, quickly going through the different projects, making adjustments based on council discussion. This year, unlike other years, we actually are $9,000 under. So if we just scroll down through 5 and then all the way through 4, if council adopted all the allocations using the starting point, for every project that received 4 votes or more, there would still be this number here, the 9,159 that would need to be allocated. Council could allocate that amongst the projects that received 4 votes or more, or if it would like to, it could also look at some of the projects that received 3 or less votes, right? So that's, again, there's quite a bit of flexibility there as to what council is going to do. as we go through, if there is consensus about bumping any numbers up or subtracting numbers, we can make those adjustments in real time, and we'll see this number change. And ultimately, we want to get to 0. At the end of this, we're going to ask for a council resolution that approves essentially this document so that we can forward this on to the RDCK by their deadline of April 30th. So I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
So just just for a little bit of clarity, for our newest councillor, Charles Wood, the allocation to the arts community was put in place, I'm not sure just how long ago, but it's quite a few years ago. And the reason for that was that we could get them on a good platform moving forward. So they automatically get 25% of the fund. And as Gabe outlined, it's adjudicated in the arts community where the funds go. So we're not obligated to give more or less. We could if we wanted to, but we're not obligated to give outside of that particular group. If an arts group should apply within the general portfolio, we're not obligated to do that, but we can if we wish. The other thing too is when we get to the number of 3 or less, the allocations, the funding that will be available under that 3 or less could go as an example, just as an example, to a group in the that got all 7 votes and maybe they're $1,500 short of what they asked for. You know, sometimes we're better to make sure that a particular group gets what they want because they can do what they want to do. Sometimes if we give them less than they want, it turns out they don't get their project completed, or they don't qualify for funds from the other funders as well because they were short changed at our side or vice versa. So it's really important that we have read the applications and made sure that they're, first of all, are they going to have an impact on our municipality as a whole? And can they get some projects over the finish line? Can they get projects started that'll have longevity and make a difference in the long run to our community? So it's just, those are just a few of the thoughts that have gone into this over a period of time. Councillor Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted some point of clarification from Gabe, please.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Gabriel. You were saying the arts jury was there wasn't a consensus in terms of voting from other councillors. I allocated what the CDC had allocated.
Oh,
but you were saying I was the only one. Is that correct?
What I meant was I didn't actually look at your numbers. You were the only councillor that filled it out. So if you just put what the CDC put in, you know, I think I had instructed people to just leave it blank if they were adopting or proposing to adopt the arts jury number. So I should have looked at yours more carefully. But if that's the case, Jesse, Councillor Woodward, then all 7 of you seem to be in agreement with the arts jury figures, which is great.
Yes, I wanted to clarify that. I did just adopt what the Cultural Development Committee proposed.
That's great. Thank you.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you.
Good, thanks. Nicole.
Another question for Gabe, please, while we're asking. This spreadsheet that you're showing us, did you send this to us as well, or are we looking at it only on the screen?
I did send that this morning, so you should also have it on your computer by email.
Do we have Councillor Charlwood set up with their own city email address?
We do.
Yes? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I believe also Keith might have raised his hand using the raise hand function.
How come we can't see him? Are you there, Keith?
I'm right here. You see me
we're
now?
not seeing your picture. I mean, we can manage without it, but it'd be a lot easier for me. Yeah, okay, there you go.
Can everybody not see my picture?
No, you're up.
Okay.
You're on now.
It just doesn't show everyone.
I jump right in here, and just as I like this position of being at a negative. I think we should under allocate in the future just to get to this kind of role where we're filling up the bucket as opposed to trying to take things out of the bucket. But I'm noticing in the 3 or less votes area there's a number of small items, less than $100, less than 500, that specifically support various community groups in the RDCK. And I think we may want to consider adding a like $1,700 that hits those 4 or 5 different projects, because a little bit of money to the Slocan, a little to Rindale, a little to Windale, a little bit to Tagum. I think it shows us as a good neighbor and pays dividends in that way.
Yeah, well, it's
And they're
not
small
a,
asks.
it's not a popularity contest. It's, we have to allocate these funds to the right places, at the end of the day. So, I look at that somewhat differently. I look at it as an example, the Baseball Association application, with the request that they made, and they were shortchanged. So if I was gonna give additional money anywhere, I would give it to them to get them completion of a project. So that's how
If I
I
can,
would-
Mayor.
that's how I
Mayor,
would-
just
Maybe-
also, if I could just let council know, what many of these other areas do is different than the actual work that is done by our council in the CIP. Basically, they have a dot night. So whoever goes in, you get as many of your friends as you can, you go stick a dot on it, and that's how they allocate it. It's not sort of that similar judging adjudication that we do here. It's very much on who's got the most people to do that. So if you're thinking like, oh, hey, we help out this group so that when we go and ask for something out there with them, there isn't likely a reciprocation. Just not that maybe you're looking at that, but that's just being clear on those sort of things. I find it kind of actually strange that there's people from some of these areas actually applying for the city, but that's
I think
that's
you
my
can
take.
make a strong case that a lot of these facilities are things that Nelson City residents are using on a regular basis. So again, I think they're small asks in connection to the overall large size of the project. And I think each of them, from the new sign for Windale to the campground, to the playground, to the Fish Creek study, they're all good projects, and they're all small asks, and they're all of regional benefit, and of which we're part of the region.
Yeah, just again, reminding they would have got their own funds,
If I can jump in.
right? They will have been allocated.
Councillor Page too, rather than talk about any particular project at the outset, I think what we did last year and the year before, if I recall, is we kind of do one sweep through everything and talk about each project individually, and it actually goes quite fast with the consensus model. So when we get to those particular projects, that might be the best time to speak to them. And if there's not any other questions about the broader methodology or about the process in general, my suggestion would be that we just start at the top and then work our way down.
Yeah, and I think Colin's point needs to be taken into consideration. Each one of those communities get their own allocation from Columbia Basin Trust.
Can anybody see me?
Yes, we can, Janice, yeah.
Okay,
Can see you now. When you spoke, your screen came up.
okay, because I just wanted to say something about in regards to what CFO McClure just said, is that normally they would do dot night or some variation on that theme, but because of COVID for the last 2 years, they haven't been able to do those, and so they allocate now, and they have to have a committee that they have to select that does them, and is probably much more influenced by the other document that we got earlier on, which shows how many people said, oh, we should have that project. And so they're probably a little bit more swayed by the number of people who got their friends that way to rate to the CBT to say that they thought it was a worthwhile project. I know that there's a number of regional district directors who are actually disappointed that they couldn't go back to dot night, because that also gave them an opportunity to interact with their constituents. So it's not the way they've done it, and now CBT has made them form a committee, of which for the municipalities, I think they were only allowed to have one municipal rep. So anyways, the rule book has changed for this last 2 years. I just want to make that clear.
All right, Gabe?
So what I'll do is, again, because it sounds like all 7 of mayor and council were on board with the arts jury recommendations. Again, they've allocated that 25% or the 37,000. So I think it makes the most sense to just jump into the top of the group 2 allocations. So looking at, again, that the Rosemont Multi-Generational Park project, again, 7 councillors voted to allocate funds. 4 councillors allocated the maximum or the ask of 10,000. So that's why the starting point is 10,000. So I don't think there's too much to discuss on that one unless someone wants to jump in. The next one that had 7 allocations was the city's youth center kitchen upgrade project. They were requesting 15,000, and again, the 4th lowest amount that was allocated was 11,250. So if anybody wants to advocate to increase that amount, now might be the time to do that. Otherwise, we can move on to the group of 6. Hearing none, I will move on. And again, we can come back to these. We can kind of just do a first sweep. So if there's something that you want to come back to, we can do that as well. Next, we have the Be Awareness Society. Received 6 votes. The lowest was the 2,500 from that group of 4, or the 4th lowest amount. Friends of Kootenay Lake for the beach cleanup. So again, we had 4 people saying we should give the 600, so that matches their ask. For Glacier Gymnastics, the ask is 3,000. We had 4 councillors advocating to award 2,000. Some wanted more, but 2,000 was that starting point. Same with Kids Sport. The ask was 5. Right now we're at 3. For CAST project, the ask was 4,600, and we are at 3,450. The Climbing Association, the ask was 3,100, and we're at 2,000. Kootenay Kids Society, the ask is 1,500, and that's what they're being allocated under this model. Nelson Cares for the recycling compost, again, they're pretty much right at their ask. They're about $97 under. Community Food Center for the garden project, they're asking for 8, and under this model, they're being awarded 6,000. And finally, under the group of 6, we have the Tramway Society asking for just under 5,000 and being allocated 4,500. So, would any councillor like to speak to this group of 6? I see Jesse's got his hand up.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Thank you. Thank you.
I do too.
I was just wondering if council would, because these were well supported, the monies seem fair to the projects. Could we get a consensus that these are good to go? Would that be fair?
Jesse, before we ask that, what I would suggest, since they got the kind of leverage they did, that let's top them up to what they asked for. That'll be my first reaction. Like as an example, the Tramway Society asked for 4,900, and they're allocated 45. And why wouldn't we just give them the 49?
Are you thinking, Mayor, because it's strong, 6 votes is quite a strong showing?
I think so, yeah. Because when you look at the Nelson Community Food Center as an example, asked for $8,000, right? We give them and we give them 6. Why bother? Like, why not just give them 8? Like, it's a good program. Everybody likes it. We know they have a proven track record. They're not going to fail on the project, but $2,000 could be the difference in them making that a better project or keeping it as it is. You know what I mean? Those are just my thoughts around that first group, since 6 people are supporting them anyway.
What do other people think?
John or Gabe or somebody?
Councillor Lockleber's got his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, John, I agree with that in principle, but there's a little something I'd want to add to that, which is that some of these groups are used to and have the capacity to do external fundraising beyond the CBT. And some of them, I don't know if they do or not. So I think this is a question for anyone who knows. First of all, I want to start with the 7 votes with the kitchen NDYC kitchen upgrade. That's a center that's widely used by everybody in the region. I don't know what their capacity is to do external fundraising, but if it's not very good, then the Nelson taxpayers, I imagine, would have to pick up the difference. So I would advocate for topping that up, unless I have that wrong. But I would advocate for topping that up, and then I think topping up certainly some of them. The Tramway Society seems like it's close. I don't know how it will affect the art fundraising outside of these grants. And the other one was definitely the community food center. I think getting that up to 8,000, I agree. So in general, I agree with topping it up and getting these people whole, including NDYC.
I don't know if anybody has a calculator out there to figure out what that looks like. If Collins keep wondering what that would look like at the end of the day. Kootenay Kids.
So do you want me to, sorry, Mayor, just so I can, because I have my own spreadsheet up here, I could let you know kind of what happens if you top them all up. I think just even on the face of it, you're going to quickly use up all of the $9 grand. So I don't know but I can certainly tell you what that number is.
But that's assuming that going forward that every other name on this page would qualify, period. I mean, when you get down down the page, you might have some that are eliminated too.
I agreed. But if you want me
Can I
to
just
know,
jump in for a sec?
Yep.
So Gabe or Con, for whatever reason, I've been having computer problems today. I can't load the ones where everybody voted.
Yep.
But if there's somebody on that 6 votes in this area that is lower than whatever you have allocated there, and they want to bump it up, it's going to bump it up. You can choose, to
Which one?
consensus is always best. But I mean, if Rick was the 4,500 for the Tramway Society, and he wants to increase it to the 5, and he's that person that got it at the 4,500, that's the other way to look at it. Is you need at least 4 people to bump any particular one up past what it is now. And I don't have the spreadsheet of who's under that right now, or who was that at that 4,500 that's set it there. Like you might have 3 people at the full amount and 1 person at 4,500. If that one person says, no, I'm good making it 5,000, then just say that and you'll move on, and you'll save some time.
Yes, makes sense.
Okay, well, I can certainly do that.
And just really clear, to be clear, Gabe, the numbers we've got are the 4th person, right? They're not the 6th person here. They're the 4th person.
It's the 4th person.
Good. Yeah. Just wanted to clear that up.
So the first one you started with was the NDYC kitchen at 11,250. I don't know what the split on that is, but
Yeah, so we had Councillor Charwood and the mayor at 15. We had Councillor Lonberg as the low.
Well, I'm happy to.
No, sorry, he's not. He's the lowest of all of them, and
Yeah.
it would appear
so if
that
you want
Council.
bump that up, then you're done with that one.
Yeah, I'd bump
Well,
that up.
Actually,
So excuse me,
yeah,
just
so we
for a
got 3 at 15. Yep.
Excuse me for a second. Personally, from my perspective, and the council, everybody makes their own decision, but when I look down the pages, as an example, when you go back into 5 votes or more, and I look at, as an example, the Tramway Society being a little bit short, and I see an allocation to the Kootenay, the Horse Association of Central Kootenay. Like, how is that connected to the city of Nelson? Like, those are the kind of questions I ask. I mean, if we have, I'm not so sure I want to look at this list as a done deal, and that we only have $9,000. We may have $50,000. Like, I wouldn't allocate $500 personally to the Horse Association of the.
But the thing, Mayor, is you'd have to convince your colleagues.
No, I understand. I understand completely that, but I don't see the logic or how anybody could arrive at that. So the last time I checked, there was no horses living in the city of Nelson. as an example. Does somebody
John-
from the city of Nelson go out there and ride a horse? Maybe they do. Or, you know,
John, if I may,
yeah,
John, if I may, can we just tie off the NDYC and then that'll adjust the number, and then maybe we can make a general argument about what our principles are on how we allocate the money. But we're so close with the NDYC. I was just thinking we can get that one done. And
yeah, but
Yeah,
I-
you can-
where I'm,
yeah,
where I'm
it's-
trying, where I'm trying to go here, Rick, is I wouldn't want people to think that now we only have $9,000 to allocate, period. We have
it's
a
not
hundred and some
uncommon,
odd thousand to allocate, but this is the outline of how we got to where, you know, we believe we should be. But for, I don't know if everybody else has read the list, but when I look down the list, I see a lot of money sitting on this table that I personally wouldn't allocate. Do you get, and I'm sure there's other people
yeah.
in the group thinking the same thing. So I'm not suggesting you're wrong. I'm just saying that you have more than 9,000 available to you.
Right. I was just saying with the NDYC, I think either way, I think we're almost done with that. Like, doesn't matter how much we have
Right.
left over, because we could just wrap it and then move on.
I'm not necessarily supportive of putting that money in on that particular one in full, just because going down the list, I think there's some cases to be made that we'll pre-decide that. And I think 11,000 really gets the project started. So we should, my preference would be to keep going through the 5s and the 4s and loop quickly through the 3s and get back up to the top. So we have a full accounting, because I think, maybe one or two people looked at a project, didn't think so great of it, or thought awesome things, as the mayor is saying, about the project. And when we get there, we'll be like, you know what? I'd really like to pull this money away, or I'd really like to bump it up. But I know there's definitely things in the 5 category that will suck up big pieces of the 9,000, where we need to do that wrestling from my perspective. So I think we need to continue down the list before we exhaust
Yeah,
it.
except we're dealing with the 4 vote, and we can knock this one off. It sounds like this one's done if the 4th vote goes for the full amount. So
I would suggest that you're on the right track there, Rick. And
so we can just, and then we can really deal with the rest of it. But let's get this one off the table.
Well, if you're based on the 4th vote, it's actually Councillor Page that's the 4th vote. So he'd have to,
Okay.
he holds sway. So
Except,
Unless someone
am I below?
else
Am I below? Keith?
takes over that 4th
yeah,
vote.
you're at 5, and Councillor Morrison is at 5.
Okay,
Yeah.
well then I'll bump up, because I think I'll go the full amount till we can move on, because I think it's a really good project.
It gets murky this way, but fine.
And I think what we've done in the past is pencil these in, and
Yep.
that's it. And if people want to put a question mark beside them and potentially come back to them, you can do that, and everybody should get a fair.
Okay, so I've made that change. I've made the change, and we now have $5,400, and we've got full for each of them that receive 7 votes. The Daybreak and the NDYC, those have had full allocation. So now, if you want to move on to number 6.
So I'm keeping a written list of maybe some of the bump ups, just in case anyone wants us to keep track. But CFO McClure, just so you know, I'm also going to update the sheet here so council can see it.
I think that's a wise idea for sure. I just letting you know, Gabe, that I have the list with the individuals. I know that you've got this one up, but in case anyone wanted to know on these next,
Yeah.
I could let people know what they voted or how much they allocated.
That's super helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I expand this bottom screen? Hang on a second here. I got a very tiny screen, so,
So I don't think it'll be
okay. Okay, go ahead, Keith.
$97 off, $2 off, 75 cents off. I think we should just, max those out. Nelson Cares, Kootenay Kids, Friends of Kootenay Lake, 4, 14, and
Now, which-
24. They're all
Are
minor
you-
amounts.
So forgive me, Councillor Page, are you saying that, for example, Friends of Kootenay Lake, that we add 75 cents to theirs?
Why don't we?
Well, it's
just go
more the 97 and the 502, and yeah, they're within, and the Electric Tramway Society. They're within a couple dollars or a couple $100 shot of the full amount, and it's not going to add a lot to it.
Well, why don't we just start? Anybody on B awareness that you want to move past that one and bump? Is that? I haven't heard anybody say let's spend time on bee awareness anymore, but, and then Councillor Page said, let's go to 675 cents for Kootenay Lake.
Yeah,
I'm sure everybody can buy into that one.
yeah, I think bumping them up to like,
Okay.
right, the ones that are just so close, we might as well. It's, you know, it's a $50 here.
Yeah, but I don't think we're gonna add 6.75 to Kootenay Lake.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Take 75 cents away. Be easier.
Fair. We already did. We already did. Okay, so it sounds like Bee Awareness at 2,500. We've got Friends of Kootenay Lake at 600. We've got Glacier Gymnastics. Does anybody have a second thought on that one? Okay, I'm not hearing anybody. Kids Sport.
Hold on, could you, what's their
Oh.
number though, Colin? You,
Number 9.
no,
Number
no,
9.
but- no, sorry, so far you've said 4,500, 600. What are you saying for Kootenay Gymnastics?
2,000.
Two.
Yeah, it's sorry, I apologize. They had asked for 3, they've gotten 2. I didn't hear anybody saying I think people seem to be comfortable that that was a good commitment. The Kids Sport was asking for 5, they've received 3. Is there anything?
So,
I would like to see that one bumped up.
so Colin, just a second, I'm
Yes.
sorry, and if I'm speaking too much, somebody can tell me, but when I brought this up, that was not my intention, what we're ending up with here. My intention was to round them out to what they actually asked for, not to round them out.
No, I understand that, but I think that part of the conversation was, and I think that as councils looked at this, they said, yes, hey, we think that, you know, right now we haven't gotten there yet, but they've kind of said, hey, we believe the Tramway might get $500, but here's a couple other ones that have a bigger ask. And so if you're looking at that, that's all that we were talking about.
Yeah, okay.
So now on Kids Sport,
I'll support that one too.
yeah.
Jesse said, who's the 3,000?
We have Councillor Charlwood
Yes.
and Councillor
Jesse
Morrison are
below that?
both at 3.
And is Jesse below that?
Jesse is at 3 as well.
What am I at?
You at, I think Councillor Lautenberg, you had given 0.
Oh, well, that was a mistake.
Oh.
I'm happy to bump that up to the full.
You know, my only
I think
concern
it's-
with bumping up, you know, to the group is just that, you know, technically if you're bumping up, then you should have also been, you know, bumping down on a different project, right? There's not unlimited funds that
No,
can
but-
be allocated.
I think
But that I think we've been saying, Gabe, is that they may take out of the ones that are in the lower down in the 4s and stuff like that.
that's what I said.
Sure, okay.
So-
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead,
Please.
Janice.
Anyways, I'm just gonna kind of espouse how I get to these numbers, because some of these I was at full, and every time I did the math, I was over the 111,000 that was possible. And then I went through, and as I look at my work here, I ended up going through 4 times to get to $111,000. So it wasn't without any thought. And I mean, Kids Sport was something that I started with at 5,000, and then during my calculations ended up at 3,000 or maybe even 2,500. And I've also looked, and these are all valuable organizations, but I also whipped out, because I kept it on file for whatever crazy reason, the last couple of years. And so many of these have gotten money every year. So I was also looking for a project that I had never seen before that I thought would be worthwhile for the city to be investing SIP money in. So that also plays into my thoughts. It's not just what was today, but what was before, because I actually still think there are a number of really good organizations out there that, for whatever reason, it's not my responsibility to go and find them, don't know about the SIP program, don't know that you have to have this done by the beginning of February, which is kind of a weird time because it's just after Christmas and everything. And I think we're missing groups that don't get into the mix. So if we want to go to 5,000 with kids, I will do that. But I kind of want to be like Councillor Page, and I would like us to go through, because I gotta say that there was some in 5 and 4 that I think I gave nothing to, and so I just would like to see the whole list at least once.
And I think if you just pencil it in just for a placeholder at this stage and, you know, and get through those, and then they're hopefully maybe you have 10 that you're talking about instead of 50.
So Gabe, I'm wondering if by penciling them in, if you went hypothetically there to the 15,000, if you put the 11, if you maybe mark that with either a coding that there was a change. Just thinking whether or not you use a
Yeah, why don't we just highlight it?
yeah, something like that. Sure, yeah.
Yeah, why don't we just
Pick one that works.
Yeah, we'll just do yellow.
Okay. Okay, so we were pretty comfortable here. So we hadn't done anything, but on kids sport there was a desire to go to 5, and so if we make that change and then maybe we carry on. Again, the understanding, Councilor Morrison, that it is penciled in, that it was at 3. I'll have it on my side of what the original amount was.
So we're going to
And
6.
Colin, you have 4. Colin, you have 4 that are at 5 though? 5,000 now?
Well, Councillor Lottenberg was wanting to increase his allotment.
Yeah.
That
But
was
you'd
where,
need 3 others that were at 5.
and do I have that? I have 1,
I'm willing
2,
for the
3.
for the purpose of contemplation to go to 5. So I think the idea
Okay.
here is to mark this, because
Exactly, Councillor.
in my wish I wanted it to be 5, but in my reality it became on my sheet 3 or 250.
Okay.
Well, as long as you have the 4, and if Janice, you're one of the 4, then that's fine.
She would be.
Okay.
Okay.
What are the 6s now then, or the 5s, are we?
No, again, I appreciate, because we were just talking about penciling things in to kind of see where we end up. So then if we looked at Cast's request, they asked for 4,600. They're at 3,450. Is there anybody out there that's saying, hey, this is one that I think should, get closer to what their ask was? And if you're wanting to know, who's involved there, appears that Councillor Woodward and Councillor Renwick would be the outliers on that. In fact, yeah, you got 1, 2, 3 for sure at the high, and then again 3 others that are in that 3,000 to 3,450, and then 1 councillor was 0. But not hearing a lot of appetite for movement on this one, so maybe we'll go down to the aerofiltration from the Kootenay Climbing Association.
How are we, point of order, sorry, how are we putting up our hands to be seen?
Part of it's hard, Council Charlwood, that we need kind of a combo. One, if we can see you, we'll take your hand. If you can't see you, then you have to do exactly what you've just done and sort of blurt out a point of order.
Blurting.
So I think the best way to be seen is, because there's, right now I can see 4 councillors, right? So if you're off the screen, you're better to unmute yourself and say something just in case, and then I'll see you.
Great. Again, just, I guess, point of order, I'm not clear on our process, and are we you're giving an opportunity for us to advocate for certain projects. I would advocate for this one in particular. As a mom, watching children learn online, encouraging STEM, and focusing somewhat on girls. I love all of what they do, and so, if I'm advocating for something, that's one that I offered full grant to, and would encourage others to consider that as well.
And Councillor Charlwood, based on the numbers, yes, you and the mayor and Councillor Lottenberg did do that. And then we have Councillor Page, which was at 3,400, and then 2 at 3,000 for Councillor Woodward and Councillor Morrison.
And I hear that others want to wait. So can we do one or the other? I feel like we're doing kind of both.
I hear you.
So I'm still not clear on how we're going to make decisions. Thanks.
Well, I think part of it is, I guess we try to gauge it as well as the response from council. You know, I hear you coming forward with that, but there are the other six aren't really saying, yes, this is something I want to, you know, do a top up on. So there seems to be a bit of, again, I understand it seems haphazard and I wouldn't disagree with you, but we are just trying to, again, do this allocation. So if it's something that you got someone else that says, yeah, I'd, you know, some of the ones that were lower, that wants to say, yeah, I'm willing to go to the top up. Otherwise, then we'll, again, doesn't mean we're done. Just we might look at the next line if we're not hearing a big speak out on it.
Colin, just am I one of the lower ones? I'm just looking.
You are not. You were also with Councillor Charlwood, where you granted the full amount.
So it's Councillor Morrison, and I have no problem with actually giving this one some more money either. Again, it was one when I look at my own sheet here, because I really think that STEM or STEAM in this case is very important, and particularly for young women. Having been a scientist myself, that I did have this up at on my first round at 4,000, again trying to give everybody a little bit of money. So I do see some opportunity to move here, and maybe we could land on moving it to something like 4,000, just going up some, but not all the way to the 4,600.
I'll second
Okay.
that.
There you go.
That's,
I think I'm the 3,400, so I'll bump it up to 4. My allocation, that's fine. I just being cognizant we've given this organization a lot of money this year outside of this process, so we are certainly supporting their mission.
Oh yeah.
So that's part of much like you, Councillor Morrison. On my third pass, I went through and, you know, tried 80%, tried 75% on a few things, and just realizing they could execute their mission with a little less to keep us under that number. But I can take it to 4. 4 is fine for cast.
I appreciate that feedback too, Keith, because I don't have the history that you do. So I'm also, you know, fine if we don't increase, but I appreciate everybody bumping it up. Thanks.
Okay, that Gabe's already on it. He's on it. Okay, Kootenay Climbing Association. Yeah, kind of a mixed group there. I'm not sure, you know, basically getting 67% of what they've asked. Does anyone feeling that that's one that needs a bump?
I'd bump them up. Is Cal the 4th?
Cal had he had actually offered the whole amount. Again, I think a bit of a pattern here where you see a Councillor Woodward and a Councillor Morrison that I think like to try to share the wealth, and we're probably doing that 80% kind of you know, to give something to everybody. So those would be the two on the outside.
Once again, I would suggest, and you know, with all due respects to everybody else, but Janice, I mean, you've been around the horn a little bit too. In the past, you know, if you don't get people over the hump, they don't get the project done at all. So you got to keep that in mind. Like, that's what I tried to say at the beginning. There's no point in giving a group like $300 and shorting somebody else 200 that can actually get something done. You know, like, you're not, if you're going to do an air filtration system at the climbing club, that's a fixed price. You won't get it for half price. It won't be, you know, and they've requested, as an example, where the heck are they here? Oh yeah, they're looking for 4,600 total, and they're asking us for 31. So our
it's true, but we also know that they've got quite a bit of money sitting around because they're trying to get a new location. So,
right.
And that was my thinking. I'd put a pretty low number on this to give some support. And I hear your point, Mayor, about getting it over the hump. And I guess $5,000 wouldn't have done that. But this group has definitely put out that they are reaching for a much bigger thing, and this ask is for a location they would at some point be getting rid of. So it didn't feel like a very good fit long term. If they can't raise 5,000 for a temporary thing, like how are they gonna? Anyway, like, and aspirationally, I totally agree that they can reach for these things. I just felt it was out of step a little bit.
That's fine. I'm actually okay either way. I just wanted to let you know, making sure that we all know that this money is not allocated yet. There's money down below here that may go somewhere else.
Okay.
Let's leave it.
Okay. Kootenay kids, I think the $1,500 is fine, but if you really want $2 on there, we can do it. It just seems a bit like a rounding error. So, again, to Nelson Cares, do you guys want to make that $1,100? Sounds like I get see a lot of nodding heads. So,
Yeah, I'm for that for sure.
okay, so that one there.
What is that saying? Watch the pennies, the dollars take care of themselves. I guess with
true.
inflation.
And then you've got kind of the last two here, where you've got the Nelson Food Center and the Tramway. Now,
And so for me, there again, I mean, these are ones that I picked as giving the full amount.
yeah,
We know they can deliver. You know, why mess around with them? I know the Tramway, as an example, just spent, you know, they have to raise $61,000 to cover the cost of that work they're doing down at the track right now. And, you know, 4,900 probably make a big difference to what they're doing.
They can also support the tramway going up the full amount. The garden, however, is delivering programming, so I think they can deliver quite a lot of programming with 6 as much as they can with 8, and they may get the other 2 from the other areas. So I think there's some flexibility there in how far that money goes. Whereas I think the Tramway Society probably needs the other $99.
And I think somebody needs to tell the Electric Tramway Society that maybe they can apply for a bit more, because this is now the 3rd year in a row that they've applied for $4,999. Do they think 5,000 is the magic number?
Yeah, I know.
it's funny. It's funny.
This week. I'm looking back through all my documents here. It's just like, that's their number. I mean,
Well, it's actually kind of out there that councils, like, I've heard that before from different people applying. Oh, well, you know that if it's over 5,000, you don't get it, kind of thing. So that's quite interesting. That I've heard that. I'm like,
the Kool-Aid. So
yes, exactly.
I'm in favor of giving them the full. They were another one that in my scribbles started at a full amount. So
I'll concur with that, with giving them the full amount.
So.
And so I hear.
So Gabe, you should be generous. Give them the 5,000, Gabe. We'll throw the extra buck in.
Yeah, you know, just for information, I think when you see groups applying for the $4,999, it's because they're reading the eligibility requirements, you know, from CBT. Certain groups are only able to apply for that much. You know, I don't think the Tramway Society is one of those groups, but it appears they might believe they are. And it has to do with, I think, their nonprofit status. Something we could take a closer look at as staff, and perhaps notify them for next year's cycle.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe. Yeah. So then we're leaving the food covered as is. Then is that the consensus there? Okay.
I would like to speak to that one, just in case there's anybody. Can we find out who's the? Is there a lot of support for that one? I thought there was.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
is.
well, there is. Yeah, there's 6. There was one did not.
6 votes for 6,000.
Oh, all 6 of
no.
us were 6,000.
No, sorry, that's not quite right. There's a few of you that were at 8,000.
Yeah, I was one of them. Yeah.
Actually, Mary, you missed out on this one.
Oh, did I? Oh, I thought.
Would you like to be there?
That was a mistake. That was a mistake on my behalf. I'll tell you right now.
All right. Well, again.
Yeah, that was a mistake on my behalf. Let me see here.
So if you did that, you would be certainly at the 4th. That's what it's supposed to be, was 8,000, because we've got Four at 8 and 3. If that was the case, you'd have 4 at 8 and 3 at 6. So obviously, like I said, a well-supported program.
That's weird. I thought I voted.
May I speak?
The mayor's just trying to go through his numbers. He thinks he put something somewhere else.
I
So.
missed that.
Okay.
I intended to support that all the way, definitely. But anyway, that's fine.
So
Jesse,
may
It
I
does
go
have
ahead?
8 now.
Jesse, go ahead.
Thank you. I would just like to concur with Councilor Charlwood that the great thing about this program is it's they're teaching how to grow your food, how to harvest your food, and they're feeding people with it. So it's kind of hitting a lot of different educational pieces and nutrition pieces. And I think there's something really important about having people learn how to grow food is pretty key and a really great way to do community building. So I would advocate for the full amount on this, considering how much work they've already done and how much work they do in the community.
And I think with the mayor, we now are at 4 at 8.
Yeah.
So I think we're good.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that one, and and that's why my allocation wasn't at the full amount at the end of the day. So.
Okay. So we're done.
Okay, we're moving on to the number 5s, or are we going home?
Well, you got $250, $260, I should say. So unless I don't know where people want to go on this next group. You got Friends of Kootenay Lake. Again, these ones remembering are now, some of you didn't give any or didn't vote for it at all. Not hearing much on that. There is a question about the Horse Association. Is anyone wanting to revisit?
Well, when I looked down the
I
list,
would. I'd like to.
when I looked down the list, I thought, as an example, I'm not sure how many of you visit Cottonwood Falls Park, but the volunteer group that work down there on that park are doing an absolutely outstanding job. And if I were given an extra $500 to anyone, it wouldn't be the Horse Association, it'd be the Friends of, Sazenji. It adds to the farmer's market, the whole ambience of that area. And they basically work on a shoestring. And to me,
this is what I was kind of warning us about, is that I really think the Issue Society should be maxed out, given how much it's going to connect the Rotting Gun Club. This is specifically about the plantings and the landscape work that's on the other side of Cottonwood, which really contains the entire creek, which really is leading into the kinds of active transportation amenities that we want as we come in and go up into Rosemont. I think that 7,000 does a lot for us in this case. We had said we were going to be fine shooting over and calibrating this needle. So I think we should go to the 14,000.
I'm
So-
okay with that too. I'm okay with that too. And we'd have to. You could say that, but then we have to take away. So, Councilor Page,
So
I've
one
got
thing too for council, just a reminder, we did just get a $350,000 grant for Cottonwood to do some additional work down there, and we were talking today about how we would support Azushi, and they're also as part of the application. So just putting that out there, that when we talk about different groups and funding and areas that we may be able to support, not wrong, Councilor Page, but also just recognizing that we plan to bring them in as part of the team on getting Cottonwood up to speed and some of the current concerns that you have.
Yeah, and I think Sebastian said he's earmarked about 18,000 for them, and I don't know if this is different than that work, but I'd suspect it fits.
So Nicole and Jesse had their hands up. Nicole, you're up.
I really liked the sound of that project too. I believe I didn't give much to it because I made an assumption that there was a connection to Cottonwood development, and I wanted some clarity around that. So I really appreciate that being raised. So because as Councilor Morrison mentioned earlier, this is an opportunity for those who maybe can't fundraise as easily. There's funding here available to people who generally or who often don't or can't apply in other places. So I don't think I would switch my vote to topping that one up. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Woodward?
I would just like to say that if the Isuji Friendship Society is getting help from the city already, I feel like there's a lot of need out here, and not to just because topping that up is $7,000 away from everything else, which is a considerable sum if you look at all these numbers. So I would just be a little bit careful there, especially if they're going to get more help from the city. Thank you.
No, I think we're probably good with Azushi because of that other grant this year.
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I'm going to throw my hat in for the Nelson baseball to top that one up. That's, that's finishing off a project that is enhancing one of our city assets. Again, a lot of volunteer, as we all know, they've done a great job down there. It's not a lot. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree. They're almost at the end.
I'd support that.
Should we just go through it like we did before with Colin going down the list then?
Yeah, sure.
If you would like, so, okay. So it sounds like I didn't hear much on the Friends of Kootenay Lake. There seemed to be a consensus that seemed to be okay. Okay. The Horse Association, there was some questions here on whether or not this is, again, if we're going to top up others, is this an area that might be considered to have some of those funds reallocated?
I would take it out, period.
I hear you, Mayor, but just wondering where the rest of the team is thinking.
And you heard that from the horse's mouth.
I gave them $100,
Don't-
so I must be
don't
like
answer that
second last
question.
and next to the mayor. I must be second last because I gave them I put in $100.
Yeah.
So I'm not keen on topping them up when there's some other small programs like that like the ones that Keith mentioned that were Councillor Page mentioned that were sort of out of town. I consider this one kind of a little bit of an out of town one as well, and so yeah, I'm not interested in topping this up.
Okay, but can we mark this one with a red one, maybe, Gabe, and then we'll move on to the next line.
Mark it as red. Are we changing the number?
I just think I would mark it as red right now. Yeah, just yeah. Certainly, it was the group that didn't vote for it were the ones trying to convince others, and I didn't hear anybody move off of their position.
Yeah. Can I, if I may, Colin, can you just quickly identify who that sort of fourth pivot person is when we get to these things? Because
Certainly,
Yeah.
yeah. So again, on the Horse Association, again, the pivot person looks like the always kind and affable Councillor Woodward. He's at the $500, and then you've got 3 at 800, 1 at 500, and then Councillor Morrison at 8, and then 2 at 0.
and then maybe we could have that pivot person speak to it if it's an issue. If they're going to move, then they should speak to it.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things too. It's with Councillor, and again, when you're at 5 votes here, and if Councillor Morrison said if I'm at 0, then down, kind of drops it to 4, you start to lower its popularity, I guess. But I don't know. I heard a couple of things. So if we circle $500 here, I know it's not a lot, and we kind of come down a bit and just see where else where you guys are landing, and that might help us. I know we're getting close, guys. So if you're okay with that, Councillor Lautenberg, just marking it red right now, and okay. The Hospice Society, again, too, getting a healthy contribution. I'm not sure if anyone has any concerns about where that's landing.
Which one is that, Colin?
It is the Kayleen Hospice Society NAV Care Program.
Definitely got concerns about that one.
Okay.
And
they are getting
Colin, once again, I be honest with you, my thinking is we don't have to give everybody some money. we should build up those that can actually get something done. That's And they're directly connected to our community and our OCP and our Nelson, our goals and aspirations for our community.
Yeah.
And I
Now,
think
they have also,
Councillor Page touched on that very well when he talked about the Suju Friendship Society and their connection to the, walking ability to get up into Rosemont and the beautification of that area. All of that's connected to what we're asking our community to buy into right now. And that's why I'm not sure that Kayleen fits in that, and there's like 2 or 3 on here that I'm not sure how the heck they even got on there. Like,
John
so
or Colin, if I may,
Yeah.
can we just have the person, John, I appreciate that, but can we just have the person who's the pivot person speak to it?
yeah.
And then
Yeah, okay.
other people can speak if that generates a discussion. But otherwise, if it's the extremes that are talking, then it's not going to
Okay.
move the ball as much.
Your pivot person is Councillor Morrison.
Yeah.
She's at the 2000. They, again, just as a thing that they did, so when you look at the full asks, just so council's aware that the 12.5, so they're looking for 9,500 or sorry, from other areas as well.
Yeah, so I'll just speak to it. I'm happy with where it is, and just to note that last year we also supported them last year. I'm not sure what the actual amount was because I'm looking at my numbers, and I was at 50% of what they had asked for last year, and it was to do the NavCare phase 2. I think what I'd like to see going forward is to have an update on how this is all going. So I'm not particularly again going to move up. That's for sure.
Okay, based on that, maybe we'll hold that one. We don't have to have any arguments about the next one. You guys gave them the full allotment here, even though, so that was interesting.
Yeah, so that one again popped up for me and the Kootenay Hospital Foundation. We're getting a lot of a lot of applications from various groups here that they have a whole different fundraising model that they use.
Yeah, I know I'm the outlier on this one because I put them down for 0. I had a hard time allocating money to the provincial medical system. And I understand the Kootenay Lake Hospital Foundation does a lot of great fundraising, and they continue that year round. I've donated throughout the year. Within the SIPS grants, I felt like these requests definitely have their own budget items underneath the provincial stuff, and I felt like on a lot of the requests for equipment, medical equipment, I was a 0 on this.
Yeah, I was 0 on it. Just so you know.
I'd advocate for it to be not on the list or to be reduced because we need to. Yeah, I think that money is good.
Who was the pivot on this?
Well, we're again for the group that did it. You all did the 4,000.
No.
May I speak?
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Yeah, that's sorry.
2,000. So.
Yeah, sorry.
I was 0. Keith was 0.
Yeah.
I don't know who else, but
I was 0.
I was 2,000. So.
I gave to this project. I would like to, upon learning more and considering, I think there is. I had the same question around schools and all of the outdoor education, and it's a similar. I feel like we need to set up an agreement on what our value is on those provincially funded programs that we also know, because we live rurally, we tend to get the short end of the stick in that regard in terms of our schooling and healthcare. So this is an opportunity for us to make some specific decisions in our communities that are saying to us, hey, listen, we can't get this money, and this is really important in our community, and it's difficult for them to fund it. Then that's why I, in the end, chose to fund, but I'd be open to debating this principle. And then I think if we make a judgment on this one, we need to make that same value judgment across all of the provincially funded programs that have applied. Thanks.
yeah, I couldn't agree more, Nicole. I think you hit the nail on the head. If we set a tone that we're going to pick up the slack on provincially funded healthcare or schools, we're setting ourselves up for you know, governments to come back to us later on and say, look, you got the CBT funding, why don't you go there for your extra money? And
Point of clarification, that's not what I said, Mayor. I actually chose to support these programs because I don't think provincially the funding is being met. So I didn't make the same, I think we're both debating, but maybe landing on,
same
on
page,
different
yeah.
points.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about the same page, but
Yeah.
I would keep them in. I think you're advocating to take them out, and that's maybe what the debate is right now. Thanks.
Definitely.
And so I apologize, Councillor.
Healthcare, yeah.
Yeah, so
If I-
apologize, Councillor Morrison, but just so on the math, why it's at 4,000 and they asked for 4,000 is that 4 of the 5 gave 4,000, and Councillor Morrison is correct. As the 5th person, although we take the top 4, she was at 2. Just letting you know. So then there was the 3 others that, or the 2 others that did not give any.
And I was one of the 4. I was one who gave 4, and I'm happy to reduce that down to 2 or to 0. Actually, given
Should we mark it in red? Should we mark it in red?
Sure.
And then
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Okay.
I think if I just want to go back to that one, and like the Hospital Foundation is very near and dear to my heart, and my wife chaired the board for many years, and we've been very involved in one way or another. But Councillor Morrison, you know from your experience sitting on the West Kootenay Boundary Hospital Association, if at some point the provincial government gets the notion that CBT is going to help fund projects throughout our region on healthcare, they will be asking us to go there. And they've asked us to go there in the past on housing, and they will be asking us to allocate funds through CBT for healthcare. And I think, I may be wrong here, but I got a feeling CBT has not dipped its toe into the healthcare pool at this point. Maybe they have.
Well, and John, to speak to really accelerate this a bit, I'm coming down to 0, which means 2,000 is now the consensus. And so it could go lower than 2,000, but it's definitely at 2,000 now. It's gone from 4 to 2, and it could go lower. So we should mark that.
And I'd be willing to go to 2.
Okay.
All right. We just found some money. Let's see how we can spend it. Okay, so we've got the Kootenay Rhythm Dragons Association for a boat trailer. And again, too, I think that people know the genesis of this particular group and what they do. Yeah, I don't know. Again, that would be Councillor Page. That is the outlier. We got a 3,000, a 2,000, a 2,000, and an 1,890 and 1,000. So does anyone have any thoughts on this one? Doesn't sound like it. I'm gonna move to 21 or to Nelson at its best. They asked for 6. They are at 4,000. On that, we've got 2 5s and 2 4,000s. The 2 4,000s would be Councillor Lautenberg and Councillor Woodward. The far outlier is Councillor Morrison at 3,000, and then we had 2 that gave nothing.
Colin, could I ask why we're giving them anything?
Well, I think part of the CIP program is you can apply. So I think that that's where, and then we allow council to vote on where they want the funds to go. So
I'm just wondering how I just can't understand where they qualified, to be honest with you. Like,
I think on
was the name that rang a bell, or was it?
Well, I think that again we open that up and we allow those that fit the criteria to put their applications in.
No, I understand.
So that's
I'm asking council how they.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Where they,
I'll speak to why I put it up at the full.
Yeah.
I'll speak to why I put it to the full amount, and that the engagements that the Nelson at its Best Society was doing at the start of our term that eventually led into the development of the Nest Labs and the development of the climate action groups. I think those community engagement groups did quite a lot for our community and have over the years been a continual piece. So I really think they provide a lot of programming with this money, and I think a lot of people get impacted and gain a lot of lived experience with this work. So I was in full support of taking it the whole way. I know not everybody has that, but I do think they touch a lot of people with this work, and it's good planning work. It's led to good things.
Thank you.
I just, as a person who I think was 4,000 what I gave, I just want to speak to that this society really is, it's about community engagement, and it's a challenging thing to do, to engage community and get people involved in decision making and policy work, and they do a good job in Nelson. So I think they spend their money well, they involve a lot of people, and have been doing it for a long time, improving themselves over and over again, year after year. So I agree with that 4,000.
Onward and upward. Still there, Colin?
Talking away to myself. 2,800, it was their ask. The 2,000 is where they have landed. Yeah, kind of a real mixed group here. Definitely people trying to share the wealth is what I see based on the calculations. And
Councillor Page, I see your hand up.
close.
Sorry. This one I think we should take to 283 or 2833. When we did the Campbell Field outreach, one thing that really stood out, and I think a lot of people read it as like, oh, people want to have a rock concert at Campbell Field, but what it really, I think, plays out to is people want to watch a sport. The number one thing in that reach out amongst Nelson, amongst the area for the Slocan Valleys, recreational purposes there was that they wanted to spectate or something. And so it makes me think of how we create spaces around these sports fields so that other people can participate and watch and drop in. And I think this is a perfect example of outdoor spaces where you can watch a game. I think we should give them some nice seats to sit on as a result. And they've done great work, as Councillor Renwick was saying.
Speaking of dropping in, did we address the tobogganing issue?
Yeah, you can toboggan at Morning Mountain.
Councillor Charlwood, I know that the fencing that they had put in was removable.
Yeah.
I don't know, again, this year, I don't know whether or not the new bleachers make any changes to where they're going to be located, if it affects
No, the bleachers
tobogganing?
are closer to the home plate area.
Home plate, okay. So it seems that
Yeah.
I think that's been addressed, Councillor Charlwood, but it is a good question.
And to the best
I
of
would
my knowledge, the fence is removable. That was my understanding. Now, I haven't looked at it, but
We didn't get enough snow in Fairview this year to do any tobogganing.
The fence is removable, and
Okay.
it was removed all winter long.
Okay.
I would concur with Councillor Page for 2833 for
Okay.
this.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you. Okay, we had Nelson Cares.
Sorry, Colin, do we have the support to bump that up? Sounds
Yeah,
like-
we do. Yeah. Yes. Sorry, I apologize. Mr. Boo there.
Guys, I have to grab the door. Hold on. I'll be back. Sorry.
So
Okay,
while
let's,
he's there,
let's move
do
on
you
to the
want to
next
take
one.
it? Okay.
Sorry, Colin.
So no, sorry, I apologize, Mayor. Nelson Cares, ask was 10. 5 was the average number there. And it's pretty close there. It would appear that Council Woodward wanting to support GHG usage by driving, even after you're old, was the one that gave us the most amount. But
Yeah,
so
that's the first thing came to my mind. It doesn't fit with what we're doing at the city at the moment. We're trying to get people out of cars, so it's
But I would say that for those that did vote for it, other than Councillor Woodward being on the kind of higher end of things, basically all in that line of kind of $5,000.
Harrier.
So is there anybody interested in dropping their amount?
Well, it wasn't on my list at all, just so you know.
Yeah. No, we have Councillor Charlwood, Councillor Page, Councillor Morrison, all at 5. Councillor Renwick at 3,500, and then Councillor Woodward at 8,500.
And just for clarification, this one is about identifying when seniors need to, start dialing down the amount of driving. Like, it is getting people out of cars in a roundabout way.
And safety as well is being addressed. That's a big issue.
Okay.
I would just say if I'm the outlier, at 5,000 is the group consensus. That's fine with me.
Yeah. So it would appear that based on that the 5 seems to be a number that at least at this point in time works. If we went on to the Azushi Friendship Society, like I said, I think hopefully there's a comfort level from council that we've got, even though you've allocated kind of half of what they're asking for, that there is other support for these projects for this year.
So Colin, on this one, is this a place we even want to talk about lowering it if there's going to be other allocations that come through? Because you look at the rowing club and there's a few other places that are doing work in our parks that I think if we're going to well cover this and they won't struggle to find this funds to do this work to keep them moving, then let's give it to some of those other groups.
Yeah, well, we could certainly mark it red. And it sounds like, I think,
Could I ask you a question before you mark anything red?
Yes.
If they get an allocation, whatever the amount is, does that not allow us to do more in the park with the money that was allocated?
Absolutely. I think that it helps, us to do more overall. So, but again, Councillor Page is well taken that if if you wanted to take $500 out of it or $1,000, that, it could be a place that, could be looked at, I guess.
Yeah.
We are getting down kind of into the lower voted ones here anyway, but
yeah. It's just it's just that I know Councillor Woodward and myself and we looked at, for the farmers market, some of the ways we could, really enhance that market area. And I know that we did get a grant to do work down there, but is it enough to do everything we could envision for that piece of property to make that like a premier farmers market location for us going forward, to allow our vendors to actually leverage that to the best of their best ability and make the kind of profits they need to keep them in business. And if we can use money from CBT funds for this project, it allows us to do more to enhance the farmers market.
Yep. And like I said, Mayor, I don't think anyone disagrees. And I think that there's a comfort level of where we're at. But if someone was really wanting to carve off $500 at the end of the day, it was burning question down below, this might be an area you could think about taking a few bucks. But all in agreement with what you're saying, Mayor.
Anyway, it's up to the group.
So I feel comfortable here. And again, if we get down in the next group, Councillor Page, and there's something there, like I said, we do have right now a credit balance. So that's one. And I guess the one there, I guess I would suggest, Gabe, that the 2,000 drop there on the Kootenay Lake Foundation, you might make that not red anymore because they've already kind of taken the funds out of it. But anyway, just as a thought. Nelson Rowing Club asked for 59.25. That's only from us. Ask is at 3,000. We have again a strong group of 4, but certainly all kind of in that range. 4, 4.5, 4, and 3, and then one person at 1,000, and then 2 that didn't give any. So I don't know if there's any thoughts on painting this. I think the painting to get the rowers to do that, it's good work with their arms. It'd be sort of simulating rowing.
Yeah. For those of you who haven't been around, they actually, they built that whole building, from scratch, starting off quite a few years ago, and they've been really good at maintaining it and looking after it. And, Rick, I see your hand up there.
Yeah, I'm a pivot on both of these, the Isuzu Friendship and the Rowing Club. I would be fine to take some of my allocation and top these guys up. Both of them are community assets. They're there in the public. And so if it's, yeah, I would move and top these guys up to the full if it's going to take that to get that thing painted.
Do you want to mark these in yellow then to come back to?
Okay. Now again, we were talking about the rowing club per se.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And if anything's left, if we need to take some money, I would take it from Cottonwood. Partially because I know that they can come back next year once we've got the grant funding through, and if we wanted, we can reassess at that point and really put money in at that next year at the same time.
Okay. So, council, we're at 3. Is there a sort of a number of increasing the rowing club to? Is it to the full commitment? Is it?
What's the fourth person, Colin?
The fourth person.
How much have they done?
Councillor Morrison at 3.
So my concern here is that looking at this and looking at where they were asking, that they had no ask actually going out to anybody else. And so that was a bit of my concern, is why I landed on 3. It was just the fact that I didn't see them going out to apply to any of the other SIP money within the area. I'm happy to go with what everybody else was. I did start with them at 4, but they were somebody that lost as I was going through for the umpteenth time.
If you were to raise to 4, you would be definitely in line with the other proponents.
Yeah, so I could go to 4.
Okay. Okay, let's do that. Okay, and moving on to the West Kootenay Community Eco Society. They've got their 100% renewable energy plan, which we found out that Nelson Next is way better. So maybe we should just fund ourselves. But anyway, that one there, 2,500. You've got
I'm sorry, Colin. I need more information on that comment.
Well, at the meeting, they told us how awesome we were, and that if everyone could follow what we did, we would, and we're funding our own program. Anyway, that was all. Again, I'm not sure of all of their they're trying to kick off theirs, which is great. Just didn't know if this means that the city's paying into a project that is actually going to fund the outside areas getting up to the speed of what Nelson Next is sort of committing to. That was all. So,
So when I looked at these, like the West Kootenay Eco Society has, I think, 3 applications in here. And we had a bit of a disappointment with them last year around the farmers market. So I'm struggling with their commitment and what that looks like should they not follow through on their project. I'm a little gun shy with this organization, to be honest with you, because of our experience last year in the farmers market.
Mr. Mayor, can I just, and sorry, I didn't read the applications, but Colin's right. Basically, for Nelson proper, their plan just says we should implement our plan. So I'm not sure what the 3,500 they're asking us to do. I don't think there's any direct support to the city. We're not. So I would question that as well if you want to fund other communities, but we have a fairly high commitment ourselves to our plan, and I would say that's where the focus should be.
I agree, Kevin. Councillor Page.
I think we just talked about the same thing 3 times in 3 different ways, so I just want to put a lantern on it for 5 seconds in that we don't exist in isolation or in a petri dish. It certainly helps us to support the work that's going on around us, but whether it is economically or environmentally or socially, because it certainly pays us dividends back and forth. So I think it's a bit of a rat race to think that we should just spend the money inside the city. We should think about what value is delivered to the city for sure, but I think we definitely need to be big-minded about it and realize that something that's happening outside of our borders can definitely pay us dividends. The 100% renewable energy plan piece, they also did some really good community outreach across the electeds and the staff to keep everyone kind of moving towards that plan. And I think there's a big piece there to make sure that they're running that work so that we can see where we're interfacing with our colleagues in our other communities, and being there at the generation stage of some of these ideas with those other key decision makers, so that we're kind of pushing the whole region along. And as the major, obviously, elephant in the room with our own hydroelectric power, I think it's certainly within our benefit to be at those tables and at those discussions and supporting those meetings with Roslyn and Castlegar and all those other communities as they try and also bring on their own kind of 100% renewable energy plans, because I think it will just simply pay us dividends, and there's lots of expertise that we can provide. So I think this one is a win. I understand some of the gun shyness. I think lots of things happened around the farmers markets. It's not all 100% the Eco Society's fault there. So I think we should be very hesitant to pull that into it. But I think the work is important. I think having that support to pull those meetings together, to have that planning support, to have those other mayors and councillors around a table together talking about the same things is just going to move us forward on our plan ourselves by softening the environment around us for our own success and their success. So I think it's a good collaborative project.
Thank you. Just on that note then, what assurance do we have going forward when these funds are allocated, they're actually spent on what they're awarded for? Because the farmers market funds were used and the farmers market was never delivered. So, I mean, what kind of funds do we have, or any parameters do we have to assure that should we go forward with these 3 applications to this particular group, that they would follow through on their commitment to the project that they actually applied for, and that money's not used up within the organization for some other reason?
But that was COVID, right? Like they had a plan they were in the middle of executing, and COVID hit. So that created a lot of complication. I'd be very careful to draw long-term generalized conclusions from how people were responding to their entire environment changing. And I see lots of other hands hanging, so I'll shut up.
Thank you. So I see Councillor Morrison and Councillor Lochtenberg had their hand up. Oh, and Councillor Charlwood, you're up there as well, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Julie. So just again, going back to last year, so because of the issues that were going on last year, we did not, I don't think we actually gave any money to the Eco Society regarding the farmers market or the Market Fest. And of these projects here, I supported this one at 2,500. And what's interesting is I've gone through and I look at my notes here. I didn't reduce it any further going as I tried to get my money to match appropriately. And I think that it is about the idea that we have a plan for the Kootenays, and that I don't think we're going to solve the energy problem all on our own in the city of Nelson. So I felt that $2,500 was a reasonable amount. They've gone out to obviously ask other community groups that have SIP money for a fairly substantial contribution. And of all the things that I do read, it's probably the one thing that I always follow is what they're doing with the community Eco Society in regards to the 100% renewable energy plan. And so I think they've got some good people in place there, and I think they're using this money appropriately. So I'm happy at this number. I don't see increasing it. If people want to decrease it, I'm fine with that. Councillor
Lochtenberg, then Councillor Charlwood.
I would just concur with Councillor Morrison on this one, and Councillor Page as well. But yeah, I think they do good work. They have done good work on this project to date, and there's a lot more work to be done. And it is a regional plan, so there's things that do require and work that will be required to interface with Nelson Next. And so some investment there is actually going to enhance Nelson Next and enhance some of our work in the city. So I think it's a small amount given what the potential return would be.
Thank you. Nicole?
Yeah, I would also like to support and even increase the allotment for this particular project. I'm not in favor of supporting all of the projects this organization has applied for, but in this particular case, I think it's important, as David Reed pointed out, to help keep the momentum going. This is a good example of how we can help them do that so that we benefit as a region. So I'd like to agree with the three speakers before me and support this project. I worked as the executive director there a while ago. I know what the books look like, and I take offense to the idea that maybe we should manage this organization's how they report to us on the spending of the money, that it should have any different process than any of the other organizations that have applied. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it would appear that we've gotten through the group of 5, and we've got $426 in the bank, and we're heading into the lower group here that received 4 votes. And obviously, there will be some swings on because there's only 4 votes in there, kind of where their asks were and kind of what was allocated. So starting off with the Bc Spca, does anyone have any comments or concerns about what they've been allocated as compared to their ask?
On the fact that we have given them money. I mean, every year that I can remember that I've done SIP grants, which is quite a few. So they always have a big ask. We usually give them about 50%, and I think it's an important program to have in the city.
Okay. Not hearing a lot of chatter on that one, and so we're going to move on to the next one on the Brain Injury Association. Again, they've got an ask from the city. Total funds requested from all groups is almost 20,000, and yeah. Again, 1 at 3,000, 1 at 2,500, and then 2 at 1,000, and then 3 with nothing. So again, that's why you've kind of ended up with your 1,000. Is that that's where the group landed as far as the 2 at 1,000 and 2 at 3,000 basically, or 2,500. Sorry, yeah. Any comments or concerns on this one or questions?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I read the application. I'm trying to remember where they were located. Somehow that rings a bell for me. Does anybody know off the top of their head?
They might be in Castlegar, Mayor Julie. I didn't read the full document, but this is an organization that doesn't get any. They don't get any government or provincial funding, so it's nice to be able to give them a bit of money. So this covers some of the work they do covers everything from traumatic head injury to people with stroke, mainly under the age of 65. Yeah, I just think it would be nice to give them a little bit of money because they're one of those groups that kind of struggles. They don't have a large identity within the community.
Thanks, Councilor
Yeah,
Morrison.
I'll jump in here. My mother had a head injury, and these people were invaluable for a certain period of time and a huge help. And I'm it's a little self-serving, I suppose, but I'd like to see us bump this one up if we could.
Thank you. Okay, onward and upward.
Okay. The next one is Cal Renwick wanting to get his property.
Cleaned up. Yeah, this one kind of took me by surprise, to be honest with you. I don't know, what does this mean? Like,
It,
I don't know, did you folks read the application? Okay, fair
I'd
enough.
be happy to. move
This
to
one
0.
is printing costs for a quite extensive PDF that they put together, which I perused, which it was really, I thought it was really good. I thought it was really fair and balanced. They tried to take some of the government information and condense it into printed material that would make more sense to the homeowners in terms of what their foreshore rights were, but also, and that's what I thought was really fair and honest, is they were like, hey, wait a minute, you don't own the beach. Here's what you do own. And there's a few things in there like that. And it's extensive. So they're asking for printing costs. They're going to do a run and they want, people to pitch in an eighth around the board to make sure the homeowners know what their rights are and are not.
so is there a concern that this goes out and then all of a sudden we have a whole bunch of houseboats that are landing on different people's property out in Kootenay Lake? Float homes or?
No, I just think it's information. I think they're just taking a lot of information from a lot of sources and putting it together so that people do understand what their rights are in terms of what to do about being a homeowner on the lake.
Nicole?
Interesting.
Thanks, Keith.
This is all about $250, so I'd just like to point that out. But I read it all. I thought it was a great form of education for waterfront property owners, and the education offered on the ecosystems that they are meant to be stewards of. So I like that it took it to that next level of not just what your rights are, which is why that organization or association was formed, but to go a step beyond and say, hey, you're stewards of the land, and here's what you share this space and who you share this space with. And I really appreciated it. And it's $250 to get a whole bunch of people on the water better informed. I think it's a good investment.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole.
Okay. Yeah. The next one, we've got the School District 20, so our neighbors, Kootenay Columbia School District, asking of 8,000 and 4,000 is the number here. We've got
I'd like to speak against this.
Oh, okay.
Once again, I'm not sure how we awarded anything here.
Well, again, Councillor, we have 1 at 8,000 and then 3 at 4,000. And then obviously 3 at 0.
I'd like to speak against this. I mean, I when I saw this list, and I was actually a bit surprised by it, given that School District 20 isn't even our school district, and yet when it came to the asks for the same type of outdoor classroom or funding that was actually pertinent and within the boundaries of the city of Nelson, it didn't make the cut. So I'm just, maybe people don't realize that School District 20 is Castlegar and
Roslyn Trail.
Roslyn and Trail.
Fruitvale.
Yeah, I can't support that when we've got such limited amount of money and we've got so many asks. I can't support that going that far afield.
I concur.
Shall we?
I can speak to this because I was one of the ones who gave money. I think outdoor education, wherever it occurs, is just throw money at it. Having said that, I totally agree that given some of these other things that I've heard about today, I would be willing to reduce mine to 0 and let Castlegar, which I've noticed a few times has not stepped up actually as we go through this process. So let them, as much as I hate to say that.
Thank you.
Do you want to highlight that in yellow then? And are we calling that,
certainly,
are we zeroing that out?
Well, again, if Councillor Slottenberg is saying that he is pulling out, then you would fall into the 3 votes or less category, and it would lose its funding.
I'm pulling out too. You can take mine out
okay.
too.
All right. So, okay, we've got more money to spend.
There you go.
Okay, Nelson District Service Society Healing Connections asked for 4999. Now thank you. Appreciate that, Gabe, for letting us know why people are doing the 4999. And it received $1,000. And that came from, okay, computer. Oh, here we go.
Janice, while Colin's having a look at this, can you enlighten me on this by any chance? Is there a healthcare connection there that?
I think this is services that they use for people that are in some of the housing that we have here in town. It's not a program that I'm highly familiar with, this particular program, but I must say I did give it more than $1,000.
Yeah. We had 2 counselors at 3,000, 1 counselor at 2, and the 4th counselor was at 1,000.
Yeah, just
If I may,
curious from the folks that give it 3, how did you arrive at that number? Councillor Page.
this project specifically is to support, enable people getting over difficult times in their lives through storytelling. They are creating a series of videos that highlight the lived experience of people within our community and the struggles that they've gone through, to send a message of hope and healing as people move through traumatic phases of their life, if that would be my preamble on it. So it's attempting to create some storytelling around those of us who run into housing difficulties and personal difficulties and all sorts of difficulties, so that there's some light at the end of the tunnel for them. And yeah, that's what the project is. I thought it was worth at least 3,000 to have people see people like them who have gone on the other side of healing and trauma.
It's about lived experience. So, I mean, I was the other person that gave 3,000. So.
Okay. There seems to be some thoughts here. I don't know where the rest of the group is. They asked for 5. They're at 1,000. And
Okay to leave. We okay to leave?
Funny, could we go to 2? Can I throw out 2? I mean, I'm a person that's already above the number that. But.
Well,
I would.
When
Sorry,
I look at Councillor Charlwood would be the or on the 4 votes, she's the one that's at 1,000. So I don't know if she has any thoughts on wanting to adjust hers.
I have no problem increasing for this particular project. I think maybe why I didn't give more, although wanting to, was I was curious to see who would actually get access to the video, and I guess I had some questions around that. There's a lot of video production going on in our community, and a lot of awesome storytelling by the same organizations and the same video storytellers. So I don't know, I guess, I think Councillor Page made a good pitch, and I would be happy to increase my support. What are we at now, 1,000? And I asked for 5.
They did, and so the highest is 3.
Highest is 3. I'd go to 3.
Okay.
So I noticed it didn't request funds from anybody else.
Well, it sounds like they're going to do Nelson people in their
me?
storytelling. They're going to be telling the stories of people in Nelson, is my understanding.
Okay, Councillor Lachtenberg.
My issue with a lot of them when I went through this matrix was, did they ask for money from other people? And that one jumped out for me, that they didn't. Yeah. And I see that they're going to be talking to Nelson people, but this is broadly applicable. Like, the stories are not just about the borders of Nelson. They're just as if not more so, given that there are people that are struggling outside of the city, probably as much or more than they are directly within the city. So I would certainly hope they would go beyond it. But I think I would sort of top out at 2,000 myself, and really encourage them to pick up the balance from Tom and Ramona and others as well.
I'll concur with 2,000.
Okay,
Jesse.
So Gabe, if you want to put that one in 2,000 there, and we'll put it yellow as well, just as because we got a couple more left here to do and get a few more dollars left over.
So that one went up, is what happened?
It went up 1,000, yes, Mayor.
Yeah. Just the
just-
reason I ask is at this point, which is fair enough, if that's the consensus of everyone who stay there, is when you look down this list here, as an example, we have the senior citizens group that, what did they get, 5,000 for on a $15,000 ask?
And we'll get there, Mayor. We got, just like I said, we're getting close, and so if we get here for the Nelson Nordic Ski Club, they've got an ask in there for 5,500. The average was 1,000, so we had oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. That doesn't help. Okay, so we have 4,000, 3,500 at 2,500, and then Councillor Charlwood again being gracious, and I think trying to help everyone, has $1,000 in as an allocation, so that's why it's at 1,000.
Just so you don't speak for me, I'd love to speak to that for a moment. I did not allocate based on the assumption of trying to spread. I was actually supporting all athletic, anything athletic related, to $1,000 unless I felt they were offering something more. In this case, it's parking, and I have trouble funding parking. Normally I would have given more because of it being an outdoor athletic draw that clearly has pulled a lot of people out this year.
Understood. Thank you, Councillor Charlwood.
I didn't fund this one for that exact reason, because it was building a parking lot or refurbishing the parking lot. And I know in the past we've supported them on equipment to, run the organization and fix the trails, etc., which I think was the right thing to do. But in this particular case, I thought for a parking lot, and I'm not sure at the end of the day, I'm not 100% sure if that parking lot isn't Department of Highways property anyway. And they should potentially be the funder of the parking. Jesse? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll concur with you with both of you on that. I think yeah, it's hard, it's challenging with the expanding parking for sure, going sort of against everything that Nelson is trying to do. So maybe there's an opportunity there to actually allocate some of that money than to a more in-town thing.
Okay. So we saved ourselves how much there? $2,000, was it?
I believe it was 1,000 is where
1,000, sorry,
it was allocated, and so if council is marking that red to go to 0.
Okay, red.
Okay. The next one that we're looking at is the Nelson Senior Citizens Association Branch 51. Ask was 15,960. Total ask from the other areas of 22,800. And we have,
We allocated 5,000 to it.
but again, that being based on one of the full ask of the 15. We have another one at 12, another one at 10, and then one at 5. Councillor Charlwood is the one that was is the one that is the fourth vote at the 5, and that's why we're at 5. Not picking on Councillor Charlwood, just noting that
Maybe that's because she's the youngest.
possibly.
That is not true, I know for a fact.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
But happy to let people believe that, if that's going for me.
May I ask a question about this?
Certainly.
So this is a fairly large ask, as we all can see. It is a very well used facility. It is in a city building. That's correct, right? It's in the Civic.
It is. There's certainly some paperwork that some would say that
It's not true.
there's a
Belongs to
relationship there
society.
that it's it's
There's a bit of debate there, Councillor.
yes, but council.
Okay. But Yeah, I would just say that it's, you know, it is a very well used location for seniors. I did have a thought about, you know, that there are going to be more seniors moving into the downtown core over the next 10 years. So that having a good seniors facility right there could be a definite benefit. So I'll just throw that out there. Thank you.
Okay. We have a couple of others, Mayor, that are
Yeah.
wanting to get on the list. Okay.
I see that. Just a question before we get to Janice and then Rick. Colin, has this work been done?
Not that I'm aware of. We
Okay.
we have done some other work with them. We did do some upgrades, I believe, to HVAC.
Because I've been talking about it for a couple of years. Janice, go ahead.
So you've hit on the, and this is, I feel like I have the advantage at least over Councillor Charwoods, because I'm looking at last year's and I recall I didn't give them very much money last year, and I do believe we landed at much higher rate than what I had written down here. But last year they asked for $42,700 from the city, from the SIP grants for renovation of the branch 51 building. So that to me is, although I was at 10,000 for this project because, you know, for many reasons, I guess because I'm getting pretty close to the senior citizens. For a matter of fact, you only have to be 55 to go in there, so I guess I've qualified for some time. But where are they on these renovations? Because I do believe we gave them a substantive amount of money last year from SIP grants. They're asking for some more this year. I think we could potentially give them more than 5, but you know, it's our building, their building, who's responsible for the triple net. Bit confused about this group, and want to make sure that the money is getting used for these renovations. And I believe last year they were looking at a huge renovation to their kitchen area, and the problem for me now is that I haven't gotten any feedback on last year's ask that we supported, and now we got this year's ask, and I'm a bit lost on where we are.
Okay, well, maybe we can just put a yellow one around this one. I will try to see if I can't reach out and get answers here in the next few minutes, and we can move on. Sorry, Councillor Lautenberg. Sorry, I apologize. I don't know if you can see me here, but Councillor Lautenberg also had his hand up.
Sorry, I didn't see that. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I have a couple of issues with this one. Given that some of our other grant applicants are getting underfunded, particularly some of the youth programs, this one really kind of struck me as a big ask relative to those other programs. Not that it's not great and should be done, but I mean, if we're allocating money to the parts of our community that are most vulnerable and need the most help, it's the youth to me that really stand out. And part of my evidence for that is the fact that they only charge $15 a year membership. That seems, I don't know how long that's been in place, but the fact that they're not raising more revenue from the membership, $15 a year seems ridiculously low. So until that number goes up, and I see more users of this facility contributing even a little bit more, I'd hesitate to do anything more than we've got here, if not even bring it down.
Thanks, Rick. Councillor Charwood.
You and I are going to have a meeting about my name. We'll do some training. I would just like to point out that this building is used and rented out quite, I know maybe not in this moment, but many low-income organizations are able to rent their space and use it because it's got a kitchen and it's got great wheelchair accessibility. So it's one of the only low-income spaces that get shared in our community. So I would like, if we're talking about them raising money, know that they return those low fees that Councillor Lautenberg references with great access in our community. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments on this particular one?
I'd like to jump in if I could, John.
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I do concur with Rick in that, you know, I have a bit of an issue you know, the amount that people charge for membership fees and what have you, that they should be, you know, there should be something more than $15. But on the other hand, I do know that the seniors, there are a lot of folks that use that are on the lower side of the income scale, and there's a lot of folks that use that are you know, they're single and they're lonely, and it's one of their, maybe their only way to get out and socialize. And that's why I think I forget what I put on this one, but I do feel for those folks, and it is, I know it is well used, so that's my in defense of them.
Thanks, Cal. All right, are we,
So, well, just putting it in yellow, I've got a email out to Peter, and I'm hoping that maybe by the time we get down to some of these other ones, I may have some answers to some of the questions that were asked about this one, as far as what it's for and what they did last year. So just thought maybe a holding pattern here.
I just want to interject. Yeah, I just want to interject. It's almost 4:30.
Yeah.
So don't we have to start the other meeting and we have to come back to this?
This is part of the special meeting. We just started the special early. Having said that, we should be, you know,
getting close to the end. Yeah, we have a bit of flexibility here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Next one is school district number 8, Wildfire School, and they've got an ask of 5,000. Ask is solely from the city of Nelson, and again another 4,999. And allocation was 2,000 from council, and that sits at 2 at 5,000, 1 at 2,000, and 1 at 3,250.
So there again, I'm wondering why we'd be given any money to this particular project. And like, you know, people pay, school districts are funded by the province, and Councillor Lochtenberg?
Yeah, I just want to make a pitch for this, that it's not, I hear you, John, about that the school districts are supposed to be funded by the province, and there's the entire tax burden that we place on the citizens for school. But I think this one's a little different in that there's a community benefit as well, and potentially a significant community benefit for that part of uphill. So that's the way I looked at it, that this wasn't just about Wildflower and those kids. It was about that whole neighborhood and adding some value to them.
Yeah, just for clarity, this is about creating walking space around that property, which is going to interface with the rest of the community's walking space, and specifically planters and pathways and separations along that parking lot, so the kids have a safe place to move around there without interfacing with the cars, which you can totally see how people moving around that space are going to drop into that area and cross through it without, you know, skipping various sidewalks. So it's more active transportation. It's soft infrastructure. It's not part of ours, but it's going to interconnect with ours. So I think it enhances the uphill area, as Councillor Lochberg so eloquently said. Just so we're clear.
Yeah, a lot of times those projects, so when they're interfacing with the municipal properties, we end up carrying that bag at the end of the day. And there's a number of examples of that where, you know, first of all, the school's closed for a month in the summertime. Who looks after it? Who waters it? Who weeds it, etc. And, you know, the Hendricks Garden is a prime example of that. You know, it just eventually went wild because you had enthusiasm for a year or two from a group that wanted to build it and look after it, but, you know, people are away on the weekend or they're not around, and it's been a challenge there at that school just to keep the community garden that they've developed in a corner of the school to keep that functioning over the summertime. So I don't know if we've had any conversations with Public Works or anybody else about how this would look and how it fits. I know when the Nelson, which was called, it used to be called the Nelson Food Cupboard, wanted to do their gardens on the boulevard, they had to work very closely with Public Works to make that happen and have a commitment. But they're open weekly, every day, every week of the year pretty well, so they can maintain their garden on the boulevard. And once again, it's another school project, so. I don't know, Colin, have we had any conversations about this, or where it's gonna sit, or? You know?
At this point in time, Mayor, I'm not aware of any conversation that about this particular project.
I want to say that that I didn't support any of the requests for coming from schools, because I do believe that this is a different jurisdiction, and I'm worried to see so many asks coming from the school district this year, and I realize that schools are struggling, but again, it's one of those things where then is everybody going to be lined up? We just did a variance for the school, then they asked, and I see it's not on here, for the covered shelter, didn't make the rating, which would be a public and usable space in the back of South Nelson there. So yeah, I just find this is a dangerous road to be going down in terms of supporting the schools.
Yeah, and there's no funds requested from other bodies either. So.
No, and can I say my 2 cents on this too, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. You know, there's a request further down from South Nelson School, and they asked for a variance and all the rest. They got a grant up there for an outdoor classroom in 2016 for $100,000. Now they're coming back for another $38,000 to update their outdoor classroom. As are other schools. I drive by my local elementary school out here, and they've got two big rocks and a bunch of sticks, and they seem to be happy with that, and it's working fine. And I'm with Janice on this one, and you, Mr. Marion, that, you know, they get their funding. I don't think they should be coming to the municipalities in the area for funding for these. The school board should be funding that stuff. These kids should be out fundraising for that stuff if it's truly that important. I just think we're making it too easy for some of these. I just want to call them sort of feel good things that you know. I understand you have to be outside right now during COVID and fair game, but you know, when does it end? When does some of this stuff end? And we're shouldering a lot of that. We already pay good school taxes.
One other thing I think is worth mentioning here is there has been a conversation about potentially moving the Wildfire Flower School to another location as well. So that's still not finalized at the school board, I don't believe. But
I would just say, as Council Charlwood said, that if we shouldn't be picking and choosing. If we're not doing the schools, then that should be even across the board here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like we shouldn't be like some getting, some not. If the school thing is coming up as an issue here for funding, which it seems like it is, then we should be standardize it across the board.
I agree.
I totally
agree,
agree.
Jesse. I totally agree.
I agree.
John,
Go ahead.
if I may,
Go ahead, Rick.
to clarify, the province is meant to fund education for young people, and in doing that, they do provide the facility itself. But often these school facilities provide an additional community benefit, function as parks or playgrounds for the neighborhood, gathering places. You see most schools are a gathering point for kids and people in the neighborhood. And I think that's a different thing than taking over the pedagogy of the schools, right? You're building up this community asset that the whole community uses. So we should look at that differently, especially when they're explicitly talking about building up a welcoming neighborhood asset right there in an area where you don't have a lot, I think, until you go up to Trafalgar. Anyway, I just wanted to clarify my thinking on that.
I just want to go back a little bit on this one, if you don't mind, Rick, just in kind of an answer on that. An example, and I'm sorry, I just can't get the name in my head right now, but it used to be the Nelson Food Cupboard, but the name's changed. It's on our sheet here somewhere, but and we just allocated some funding to them. When they decided to plant in the boulevard, they worked closely with Public Works to make that happen. I don't know that this has happened in this case. We don't know that there isn't utilities that are involved here. We don't know what kind of existing shrubbery that's involved. I don't know if we even know where this is going to end up. And that boulevard is quite extensive, you know, all the way along that block up the main street and then round. I think it's is it Silica Street there that's it crosses. So what does the project look like at the end of the day, and who's going to steward it? That's really the kicker for me on this project, as well as it's a school district initiative. It's, you know, so that's where I agree about the about having these projects from school districts on here. That this is not the forum for these. This was never the intent of the of this particular Columbia Basin Trust program, was to take funding away, burden from other organizations, other government organizations.
So do we zero that then and highlight it, or put it in red or something?
I suggest we zero it unless somebody has any objections.
I have an objection.
Okay.
I really think that we should go to the pivot person, or this, because this one received 4 votes, right?
That's correct.
Does it still have 4 votes? Is there a pivot person who's wavering?
Well, again, Council Woodward would be the pivot person, and I don't know where he was at with his thinking there, but it seemed maybe he was leaning towards changing his allocation. But
I'll just speak to that, Colin. I just feel like you know, I heard this a number of times in this discussion about school districts and, you know, where this might lead, and the offloading of government funds onto local community grant streams. So I think we should highlight that and zero that. I think that's because we haven't given it to other school asks. And so I don't think it's fair. I feel like there's an unfairness happening here.
Jesse, if I may.
Yep.
I just want to again stress, and if you look at the application, I'm sure you have there, that it is really about investing in an asset that the community will benefit from, which is different from other educational asks. Like, this is something that it's almost like a park in the city, right? Like that. So I just want to make sure that if we're developing this sort of tendency towards a policy on not getting into school stuff, we should not be treating all school stuff as equal, because some of them are really a partnership with the community, because the community benefits as much as the kids do.
Okay, so then why don't we put it in red, and we'll come back to that.
Well, Jesse, you can't zero it out for everybody else, but you can zero out, you voted 2,000.
Yep.
So what happens if yours goes to 0?
Okay, so because I'm
if-
trying to find a fairness there, I'll zero mine out because the other schools we didn't vote
If his
for.
goes to 0, it goes to 0, because then there's 4 votes of 0,
correct.
because there's 3 zeros already.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, can I just add one thing on this? And it's in terms of that community benefit. And I think council needs to, and I don't know what's happened through this process. We probably should have found that out, but it's the city's job to, plan neighborhoods, and, they should be coming through the city if they want to make an improvement to the city. And does that fit with our planning? Does it fit with our public works? All those things should happen. And then in partnership, you may say, yeah, that makes sense. And we would approve that. And if we felt it was a community benefit and this fit for it, then certainly we'd look through that lens. And the other piece is, all the give and take with school districts. First of all, they don't pay property taxes at all. So they're not contributing at all to the city. So that, that space they have should be for the community, and they should be responsible for maintaining it. They get grants, etc. for that. So that's one aspect of it. And the other aspect is, city residents and businesses pay property taxes for playing fields and parks and all these other things that school kids use as well, and they don't pay for that as well. So that's the balance I think ultimately you're trying to find is, the taxpayer pays for these assets, they're available for the community, and the province, on the other hand, isn't paying property taxes and has some responsibility to, create those spaces that are not only for school kids during school time, but also for community outside of community time. But I think the bottom line is if they want to kind of move forward with this project, they should work through our planning staff and park staff and make sure this does fit with what we're trying to achieve in those neighborhoods. And it may, I just don't know if that's happened.
I'd like to concur with that. Thank you for filling us in there, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, Gabe, based on Councillor Woodward's decision there, I think we'll make that a 0 and make it market red there, just please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Now we're on to the Red Cross. Ask was 4,500 and allocation is 1,063. We had 2 at 3,000, 1 at 2,500. The outlier of the 1,063 was Councillor Charlwood. And so I don't know if she wants
that number is embarrassing. Clearly that was my last one that I was balancing my number and it got the last dollars. So that's an odd number.
So anyway, I don't know who wants to speak as far as where people are at with this particular one.
And I'm the fourth vote on that one, right?
That's correct, Councillor Charlwood.
I don't see any need to raise it.
Okay.
I'm good with where it's at.
I just,
Okay.
I would like to speak to this, and this is a bit self-serving, only because of the fact that I know what the struggles are down there. So it's equipment. Like they said, they're looking for equipment for knee and hip replacement surgeries, and we do a lot of equipment also for strokes. So that I know what this equipment, it's more than just those two, but I think it's things that they use that because you can get your head wrapped around it easier. But when people have any kind of surgery or even say have a stroke, there's a lot of equipment that's needed. Most of it is often needed short term, sort of for 3 months or so. But there have been many days that I've been unsuccessful in being able to discharge clients from their, $2,000 a day bed at the hospital to be able to go home, where I think people heal better because of lack of equipment that's available. The hospital has very limited amounts of equipment. We cannot loan it out. We're not supposed to. I loan it out all the time, and it sometimes never comes back home again, which is problematic because then I don't have it for the next client. And so this is a really important program. And so this year they've asked in the past, I haven't been as generous, but this year I have to say that we have really struggled, and it is really hard when I'm sending families to go and pick up equipment and they're coming back and telling me one of the 5 pieces of equipment that they need for their parent or their spouse or whatever to go home is not available, and that delays discharge and everything else within the system. So it has a very backed up effect when this equipment isn't available. And again, people are supposed to return it. Sometimes it never comes back home to the Red Cross either. So I did this year myself, mark this a little bit higher than this $11,063.
Thank you, Janice. Any further comments? Okay. Next.
Okay. Okay. We have the West Kootenay Community Eco Society, Farm to Friends. Request was for 3,000, 13,500 from the other areas. The allocation is at $2,000. We have 2 councillors at 3 each and 2 councillors at 2 each. Kind of hearing that there's some comfort level of where we're at with that number. Okay, not hearing anything on that. And then we've got West Kootenay Community Eco Society again for Old Grove Forest Trails, and they've asked for $650 from the city, $6,400 overall, and the allocation is quite close to what they were asking for 4 votes at $600.
I'd bump that up to 650.
I concur with that.
Two.
Okay, all right. Gabe, do you want to make that one 650? Please.
Yeah, got it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that, again, I know you guys have been sitting for quite a while. I don't know. We have about $6,376 available to allocate. Now, I don't know if you want to start up on some of the ones up higher, or how you would like to look at that allocation.
Could I go back to the one where I had a decision point on Red Cross and up my amount there, please?
Okay.
Which one was that?
That's
Second from the bottom on the group 4 there, it would be number 43. Oh, sorry, 41.
Councillor Morrison's stories of that, and it does ring as I let that story sit in me, that there's always sort of seems to be a shortage of supplies in our communities. So,
Yeah, the group.
41?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, Councillor was at Control was at 1,063. The other groups that had voted this were 3,000 and 2,500. So I don't know if there's a
I
desire
would go
to
to 3,000 on my vote, please.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we should at least look to pick things out of the 3 and 2s that maybe just need someone to speak to them and change some minds before we, well, like allocate away by all means. I support it. I just don't want us to just go fill up the buckets on everything else without even talking about any of them.
Okay.
No, but I was given the chance on that one as the tiebreaker too, and I just didn't grab it in the moment.
What's the next minimum on the Red Cross one? The next lowest. If you go to 3, what is the new?
Sorry, that would
lowest?
move it to, yeah. If Councillor Charwood was to go to 3, then the next vote will be at 2,500.
Okay.
Is that a comfort level to go to 2,500 then on that particular number?
I would just like to thank the councillor there for her reconsideration, because this is a program and it does really serve those that can't. I mean, if I needed a walker, I'd go out and buy one for $150. But there's many in our community that can't.
Not to take too much time on this, Councillor Morrison, but is this not a provincial responsibility? That's what I wasn't clear about. Why is the Red Cross doing it and not the province?
No, it's not a provincial responsibility. This is one of those things where there's certain things that just fall outside the scope, and equipment is one of them, and it's pervasive because it goes right from children all the way up. It's something that I can tell you as a union we advocate for all the time in terms of better funding.
Better funding from the province. Okay.
I'll concur with raising that.
Okay. So to the 2,500, or was there a push to 3?
Who's the next lowest?
Apologize, Councillor Woodward, I didn't hear that.
Oh, I'm totally fine with 2,500. It sounds good.
Okay.
If everyone else is okay with that.
Okay. So I just did get a response from our facilities manager, and he just wanted to know that in 2020, the Senior Society did their electrical, energy, and kitchen washroom improvements. The job has been completed. The city paid for some asbestos abatement, the LED lighting, and pitched in for some of the electrical base building costs as the scope increased significantly once the walls were torn apart. So they, as far as Councillor Morrison and what they were doing, again, I don't know if you heard me or not, but again, electrical, energy, and kitchen washroom improvements is what happened in 2020. And yes, they are completed.
Where did we fall on the Nelson Tennis Club? Number 34.
That didn't
Yeah, it did not get the cut as far as votes.
It's in the 3 votes, isn't it?
That's correct.
'Cause they're very close to finishing that project too, and they built the whole thing with little or no funds. They've raised all their own money.
So I don't, I am cognizant of time, and I know that you've been sitting, so I don't know where council is at. We have just under $5,000 available to allocate, but I also know that there was some comments about does council have a desire to look through ones that only received 3 votes, and again, the list is somewhat lengthy, but it would be, yeah, so it's 3 votes or less. I'm not sure if it's.
So I would advocate for that particular project because it's almost completed. It's very well used. It's an outdoor facility that's being used a lot. And by adding that lighting to it, it extends the amount of time it can be used. And they haven't come to us for very much funding. In fact, I don't think they got any funding from the city at all at any time for it. They raised all the money themselves for the most part. They did come to us last year, I think, for a ZIP grant also.
I would concur with that. I think I gave them a big chunk, but that's just me.
I could be in support of that, but I still want to bundle it. I think it is good neighborly behavior for the small asks in connection with how big they're asking for the regional area to throw in the $100, the $250, the $500 to Windale, Rindale, and Slocan on top of that. And then whatever remains, give it to the tennis club, which is going to be still a few $1,000s for sure. Because I think we use those places a lot as residents of the area. And I think it's neighborly.
Can I just, based on what Councillor Page, just wondering what the appetite is for the rest of council to look at some of those smaller asks?
I would concur with looking at some of those smaller asks to fill it out a little bit. If there's an appetite for that.
Could I ask, I'm sorry,
So,
Keith, I didn't really get your drift there, to be honest with you, but are you saying no to the tennis club? Is that what you were saying, or?
Saying the
I think it was
remainder,
combination.
there's $850 across 3 regional facilities that are being asked for, less than $500 a piece, and then that leaves the other $4,439 to allocate just to the tennis court. So I'm just saying we hit all four of those, and the big chunk going to the tennis. I'd be fine with. But I just want to leave us a little money to sprinkle around to our neighbors.
Yeah, I concur with that, if that's okay with everyone else.
Council?
I'll jump in because I'm not being asked with my hand raised. I would not want to see the balance going to the tennis club. I would rather go up and look at some of the ones we've highlighted and maybe top up. I don't think we ended up topping up the kitchen, the center kitchen, for example. I would prefer, but I do like the idea of the nod that Councillor Page and Woodward would like to do to some of those smaller surrounding. So I would support those, but not necessarily the tennis. Thanks.
I think the kitchen's
So
up,
Councillor Charwood,
The kitchen
sorry,
is
Councillor Charwood,
included,
I was just going to say, Councillor Charwood, we did maximize what the youth center kitchen ask was, so that number is already in right now currently.
Thanks. Could we review the other ones that we highlighted just to see where we ended up with some of those?
Absolutely.
Because I can't read those, sorry.
Yep, no, understand. Okay, and so Gabriel, if you're at the top, so kids sport, we were at 5,000. The original number there was 3,000, so that had been topped up 2,000. Cast, again, not the full 4,600, but did move from 3,450 to 4,000.
So that is a good example that I would top up, for example.
Right.
Which one
Okay.
was that, Colin? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, that's cast. It's number
Oh, yeah.
10.
Okay.
Nelson Cares. I don't think anyone had an issue with that one going to the 1100. We did move up the food center to 8, and we did go to 5,000 for the tramway. The next group, we had red circled the 500 from the Horse Association, but had left it as where it was at. And we moved up Nelson Baseball Association to their full ask, so that was $833 more. Then we also increased the rowing club up to 4,000 from 3,000, so we gave them an extra 1,000. We bumped up the Nelson Community Service Society for Healing Connections to 2,000 from 1,000. We did on this, yeah, so nothing has changed, but we had thought about the seniors branch on whether or not we would give an additional allocation. They had received 5. Their ask was 16, and there were some questions about what had happened last year, which I kind of gave a council a brief update on what had happened there. So that was one that we didn't change, but we're looking at, and then we had removed them funding there, obviously, for the Wildfire. So really, there would be 2, as Councillor Charles was noting. What you would talk about, we were 600 shy from the full ask from CAST. There was a question mark about what would we do with the senior society. There is a comment about where is the tennis club at, and there are a few smaller asks that our council is considering whether or not that's something they want a few dollars that way to some community groups that are outside of our area.
I would move to add the 600 to the cast ask. Since it's so highly rated at the top, I might as well just max out that contribution. If there's other support, I was a little lower than where we ended up, so let's take it all the way.
I concur with that, if everyone else is okay.
I would go along with Councillor Page's being a good neighbor and give the $10 and $15, the little stuff to those groups, and with the remainder going to the tennis and pickleball courts. And I say that because of the comments that the mayor made about what those people have done up there with especially volunteerism and donations and what have you, plus put the deal together on school land, and the school has the privilege of using that during the day for their recreation and what have you. That is just, to me, a win-win-win. And it's outside, it's healthy, it's exercise, it's anybody from young to old. You start to get too old, you can play pickleball. I'd like to have seen us give them all to them so they can finish that project. But if we can give them around $4,000 or whatever, then something's better than nothing.
Jesse, do you want to say something?
Well, I really, like, I definitely feel like Councillor Page, that filling out those small asks, we should just do that. I think there's very small asks, and it's good bridge building. And then we'd still have, I think we'd still have $4,000 basically. Would people be okay with that?
The one thing that I guess I would just be cognizant of is, and again, not that I'm against chipping away at $100 here, but I just don't know if that's going to result in a increase infold of requests coming from other areas starting next year, when people start to see that when we get down to certain things that even some of our local ones that we didn't give any money to, that we have places in other areas. I know they're only small, and again, it's just a question for council to ponder. That's all.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add, CFO McClure, is just we approach this, I think, from a perspective of a consensus model, and so all of, those that we're talking about, the small ask, they had 2 people allocating money, and Councillor Woodward was suggesting that we add 600 to one of the 5 or 6 asks with cast. So just maybe keep that in mind, right? Where was the consensus based on the individual spreadsheets?
The other thing too, you'll
Yep.
notice in most of the applications, as an example, they rarely apply outside of areas E, F, G, and H for the most part. It's rare that you see an application come before us that has Gary Jackman's, Director Jackman's area as part of their funding request. So for us to fund like Ryandale and Wendell projects would be way outside the scope of anything we've ever done in the past. We might as well go over and fund Castlegar projects, where there's more of a chance that people in Nelson will go use them. That's my thoughts. Once you start getting outside of that catchment area of E and F, which are our partners for the most part in most of our facilities, and at the regional district and waste and everything else we do, Director Cunningham, maybe Director Popoff on occasion, Director Faust, Director Newell. That's our sort of historical model that we've used in the past, and most people that apply for us stay within those boundaries.
John,
Well,
if-
we're gonna
if I
have
may?
to make a choice here. We have
Can I?
$5,000
can I-
left.
I'm choosing I would choose to fund the project that has the most impact on our community, and that's the Nelson Tennis Club. Has the most impact
John, can
on
I-
our community. Not the
How do you make that
Can I-
measurement?
Can I jump in on this one? Hey, I don't know if you can see me.
Oh, sorry,
Send
Rick,
my
I see
hand
you
up
now.
for a while.
We had no picture there for a while.
I have a couple of questions about the tennis court and the lighting, and I'm worried that the impact that the lighting could have could be negative. As somebody, I grew up not far from a tennis court and a soccer field and a football field, and sometimes the lighting at night, like the light pollution, is pretty intense for neighbors. Do we have a report on that? Because could it even happen? Does it have to go through some approval process? That's my only concern, because I love tennis and I'd love to support it, but I just know, having grown up, there could be a lot of people in the neighborhood that would really not like it. And so are we sure that this is going to happen?
I'm afraid I don't have an answer for you
Can't answer that.
on that.
Okay.
That one there. I don't know. Again, as someone that lives close to Lakeside Park, I can appreciate sometimes.
Well, it just takes
the
us
lighting
back
outside.
to a citywide lighting policy.
But Colin, you're saying, as somebody who lives close to Lakeside, do you have an experience with the?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it, but it's not something that would bother me. It's not something that's there. I mean, again, and those lights are maybe a bit different. It's a fair question, Councillor Altenberg. I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't have an answer for you on
Okay.
kind of what that.
Well, it just seems to me like we should probably know that. I mean, I otherwise I'd be all for it. I just don't know if that's even doable.
So should we keep that in reserve then till we find out? And because we got to wrap up here, folks, one way or the other. So it's up to
How are we
council.
deciding what that final project is that we're going to give that last amount of money to? Just because the tennis club was thrown in, how do we make that decision as a council?
Do it right
Need
now.
4 of you to
Do
agree
it
to
right
it.
now. Just
And you do have to allocate it now for
Voting on the tennis club then?
Yeah, you need 4. Is there 4 people that want to do that? I think you had at least 2, 3, I think.
Well, why don't we just do a vote right now on that particular one?
sure. All in favor?
How much? What is the amount then?
All in favor?
Okay,
Opposed?
what's the amount
So-
we're talking about?
So currently, depending on where we were at, there, I think that, Gabe, if you could, we should, I believe that there was a consensus of going to the 4,600, I believe, for cast.
Yes, I think there was a, do you want to vote on that?
I don't know.
Are
I
you-
felt that there was, I guess, as someone had said, there was 6 votes for that overall
Yeah.
project. Because again, you are now down to the ones that did not get a full support of council. And so I felt that there was a comfort level there. We have $4,339 remaining. And so there's one question, I guess, on the table right now that would be, is there an interest in allocating that full amount to the tennis club? The other group that council was looking at was the senior center. And then the other kind of on top of that was council interested in basically providing a few $100s to some of these other outside groups. And then the last one, I apologize, is just that we had the question mark around the 500 that was going to the horse group. So 4 kind of small, but we're close. So you've done well. You've done well. You've stuck in here. So I don't know if right off the bat we want to look at, because I think if you make a decision on where do the lights at the tennis courts go, then you've kind of got your next step is, okay, what else do we do if that's not something that council wants to vote for? So I guess that would be the question. Is there a desire to allocate the remaining 4,339 to the tennis courts?
Well, I would put forward we allocate 3,500 of it. And I think we do need to answer that lighting question, that lighting quality question for sure.
So
I just say on the lighting,
Kevin,
can I just add on the lighting quality one? You know, we would work with them to make sure that
did we not
that
give
would
them-
happen.
Excuse me, Kevin, did we not give them an award this year for something?
Yeah, for that fundraising. I'm just saying on the lighting quality, we would work with the organization to make sure it didn't impact the neighborhood
But
or
I'm
minimize that
I'm just
impact.
asking, didn't we give you an award to that group?
We did.
receive the sustainability leadership.
A recognition,
They received their sustainability award this year, so
right?
this is a chance for us to back that up, in my opinion. Like, we put
the
no
issue,
money
John-
into that project as a municipality. Very
John, the
little
issue is-
very little from the Columbia Basin Trust over the 3 years that they've been building it. And we give them an award for the good work they're doing. And we're gonna nickel and dime them for $300 here.
John, it's not about money. The issue isn't about money, or at least that's not the only issue. The issue is about, can they even do it? Is it going to have a negative impact on Fairview and the whole neighborhood? And there's a good chance, having gone through it, that it will. And so it's got nothing to do with the money. I love the tennis
okay,
club and I
fair
love
enough.
what they're doing. But if the project is going to cause harm to the neighborhood, then we should know that before we move ahead. But if
It's no
I'm just
different
saying
than
that, I'm just saying we would work with
Queen
them.
Elizabeth Ballpark. It's no different than the lights at Queen Elizabeth
Ex-
Ballpark.
except
There's
that it's a
people
lot higher.
A lot closer to Queen Elizabeth Ballpark, and nobody has a problem with it. And
Except that
you're
it's
talking
higher.
about lights part of the year to play tennis, and there's very few residences that would affect close by.
Are you sure? Because if that's the case, I'm all for it. But I don't know.
Rick,
That's,
you know, it doesn't matter what we do, somebody's going to bitch about it, right? As you know.
yeah, I
If
know that really
lights
well.
go up there's going to be somebody bitch about it. But overall, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
That's my
All I was saying is, we would work with them to,
Okay.
you know, to minimize that impact. Because we have lights at the golf course, we have lights at the QE, we have lights up at Lions Park uphill during the hockey season when we had that rink out there. So we do have lights in a number of places, and I think we've learned that some of those lights are quite problematic, and we do get complaints from Lakeside Park and others, but we do work to try to minimize that.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
just to be clear, Cal, again, just to be clear, the lights do cause a problem to potentially a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's the bad
Well,
project or anything. I'm saying that it does.
okay,
I'm saying not a lot.
so
Yeah.
based on their ask, they'll still need to raise on their own, which I'm quite confident they'll do it. almost 12,000, around $12,000 at the end of the day, even if we give them $4,000, so.
Can I speak?
Yes, I can't see it, Janice, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm waving. At least
hear
I'm
you
getting good
now.
exercise.
I hear you, I can hear you, but still can't see you.
Yeah, so they might get $4,000, but their total ask is $31,689.87. So they're a little ways off from success. So I support this program, and I'm looking at my numbers, and I had wheedled them down to 7,500 when I was going through my worksheet. So at 4,339, if this is the magic number, give or take, if we top up the $2.50, it's somewhere there in some line item that we haven't given. I'm happy with going forward for this, and probably for the main reason that let's get a project finished. And this was near and dear to like when I think of all the work that Robbie Wright, when I look at the volunteer effort that was put into getting these tennis courts up and going, and the level of utilization of them. I've long quit playing tennis, so I won't be up there using them, but I fully support trying to get this completed. So this is definitely on my list of let's get this project completed, and that's why I had initially wanted to give it. Actually, I had the full ask initially, 15,000, and then I went to 10, and I ended up at 75. So 4,339 sits well with me, so I would be in favor of this project.
So
Okay.
do we need to hold a vote?
It sounds like it, yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Can you see us, John?
Oh, I can see all of you, yeah. You see all of you, yeah.
Okay. So this is all in favor of 4,000 to the tennis club?
4,300, I think Janice said, yeah.
Wait, is that 4,300 more
Sorry, I
or
can't see Nicole,
4,300
I beg
total?
your pardon. But, so we have 1, 2, Janice, your hand's up? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Nicole, I'm sorry, I can't see you.
I'm not voting, I'm voting against.
Okay, so it's a 4-3 vote. So it sounds like it's gonna go ahead. So that's Rick, Keith, and Nicole voting against.
Yeah, my vote is just that 3,500. I just wanted to sprinkle something to our neighbors. Now that's the only reason.
All right. thank
Otherwise,
you.
I support it.
Thank you, Keith. All right, so that's dealt with that one. Are we just about done then? Are we out of money?
That would bring us.
Well, based on that allocation, you would be balanced, and
Right.
then the only
You're done.
Yeah, you're done.
Yes, you're done.
I'll have to ask about why we're giving $500 to that. I'd almost sooner give $100 to the Fish Creek habitat out of town. I need to hear from somebody why because I put down nothing I put down $100 for that group.
Who is
Now
that,
you're
Janice?
talking, Councillor, about the horse group. Is that what you're
The
speaking
horse
to?
group.
Yeah,
I'm still.
I can't understand.
Like,
how
I'm-
they were on the, how did they, where does that fit with Nelson? I just can't get it.
I would like to see the fish habitat restored. Like I'd give them the $100 for like 100 for horses and 100 for the fish habitat.
I would concur with that, with what Janice is saying.
Yeah, I'll agree with that too. I would maybe leave them a little bit, but I would spread it out to those other groups.
So we had, under receiving 5 votes, we had $500 for the horse association. So are we saying that we're going to give them 400 and give 100 to the fish?
No, I'd like to see us give 100 to the horse association.
And 400
Okay.
Yeah.
fish.
Yeah,
Fish don't
bring
need
this
400.
down to 100, and then spread it over those other 3 down
And
into 3
then
votes.
spread it over something else. But I'm voting 100 for fish because I think they wanted 100.
Janice, you could have made it very simple and voted for the whole thing for fish.
Well, the whole thing for fish. I don't care,
Yeah.
but I just don't want. it's.
So
Now
I
we're gonna-
apologize, council. It's getting, and we're just in the last here. We thought we were done. So forgive me. Just so I understand, council is saying that we are looking at giving $100 to the horse group now.
Yep.
Okay, I'm hearing yeps. Okay, we're at 100. So that means that we've got 400 left over. We had the Slocum Waterfront that asked for $100, so we're planning on giving them 100.
Yeah, down here you've got Slocan water number 40. They
Yeah.
want 100. I'd say Rindale gets 250.
Or do we just give the rest to the light group? So do you make it instead of 439 to just make it the 4639?
Good idea.
I think that's a good idea.
Good idea.
No, let's spread it to our neighbors. Let's share a little bit of. Let's be generous with our neighbors.
Yeah,
Well,
I would
guys,
agree with that because that,
We're talking about $100
Let's-
here. You know,
well,
we're gonna-
it can help somebody.
yeah.
No, I hear you, but
What
I
I'm
just
saying is
now
let's give it to somebody and get finished. Give it to anybody.
Okay.
Well, like park your opinion for 5 seconds. Let the like just. It's a couple $100 across 3 different organizations that are shared by multiple people. Like,
so
I'm just.
so
I
Gabe,
think
just
the
so
tennis club and stuff like that is used by people outside of the city area. So I think that,
Yeah.
like, I think the fish, because it's part of food security also in my mind, and
Okay, so-
recreation and youth things, is that I just think that we give the rest to the tennis court and all of these things like we gave quite a bit of money to the West Kootenay Eco Society about the renewable, and we have our own plan, but we are supporting the rest of the community. So it's not like Councillor Page, that we haven't supported things outside of the city of Nelson boundaries.
Mhm. Well, and throw the fish getting the $100 for sure.
So Gabe, if you can give $100 to the fish, and then please take the remaining 300 and add it to the 4339 goes to 4639, and we call it a day. Council, we could have a break,
Thank
please.
you.
Can
Yes.
we have
Yes.
we're just gonna need a resolution. We're not gonna
To
meet
adopt
again
this.
before this goes to the RD later this week. So traditionally, we've done a resolution. The resolution just reads that council has considered applications for funding allocated to the city of Nelson under the CBT Community Initiatives Program for 2021, and recommends to the RDCK Board of Directors that funding be awarded to the following organizations in the following amounts. And then it'll just be a list of what we've agreed upon here today. So if that is
So moved, Gabe.
Keith, do you think?
I'll
you
second,
okay.
So moved, Gabe.
and I'll second.
Hold on, we moved by, I think it was Councillor Renwick, second by Councillor Morrison. Does that sound right? I'm not seeing everybody up
Yes.
here, but I'm just hearing voices. Okay, Renwick and Morrison. All in favor? You might have to say aye or something. Oh, I can see you all now for
Aye.
some reason. Okay, I see you all now. Okay,
Favorite.
carried. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
Thanks, council. It's concerning when the mayor's hearing voices, but I just wanted to reach out to all of you and say thank you for your patience. I know this is a tedious process, and and last year we didn't have as much of a stretch on it, but thank you for your time and commitment to that today.
So we're not going.
Somebody please tell me, are we staying on this?
Yeah,
Are we
we're
taking like a
staying on.
5-minute break to go to the bathroom, and we're staying on this?
Janice, just a moment, Janice. We're going to take a 5-minute break. Gabe's going to get us all set up, and we're going to continue with the first part of the meeting because we have 2 subjects on that, on the special. Then we'll go into the closed if we have time before 6. If not, it'll happen at the end of the regular meeting, regular committee of the whole. Okay? So you got, take 5, relax.
Okay. See you in 5.
Are we still?
Watch me eat, but
Okay,
I'm
no
here.
problem. We're coming back on now, Jesse, so we're
Okay.
gonna reconvene in the special regular meeting here, and we had on the agenda, whoops, my screen closed. We're moving on to the Friends of Kootenay Lake request that's in your package. And as the Friends of Kootenay Lake Society will be removing and disposing of derelict boats beached near the new ferry building site at Sprout Drive, the Society has requested the city cover the tipping fees for the disposal of the boats to be deposited at Roman Narrows Transfer Station. A council decision on this matter is required, and there is, we have a recommendation in front of council if you wish to support it. And somebody may, Councillor Renwick is moving, second by Councillor Page, that the council approve the Friends of Kootenay Lake Stewardship Society request to pay for tipping fees incurred in their cleanup of the foreshore area between the Prestige Marina, Lakeside Park, in the amount of $440.
Sorry, Mayor, there was a mistake in the resolution that was pointed out by Councillor Morrison, who appears to be trying to indicate that, but is on mute. And so the resolution should read that council approve the Kootenay Lake Stewardship Society's request to pay for the tipping fees incurred in their cleanup. I thought I changed it, but for the 2 derelict boats, as referenced in the report.
Yeah.
In an amount not to exceed $440. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I think it contradicts itself in one other area as well. It's from the Prestige Marina to Lakeside Park, and actually where the boats are is down where the building
Yeah,
is.
this is
the
an
new
old
ferry is, so-
resolution because they
Yeah.
came earlier.
Was the part that I asked him to change.
Yeah.
That's not supposed to be in the motion.
Right,
Yeah, so we'll modify the resolution appropriately. It's with regard to the 2 derelict boats.
okay. All right, all in favor?
Comment.
Yeah, go ahead, yeah, Cal, yeah, absolutely, go ahead.
Thank you. This is a question for staff. I know we don't collect any money for those boats moored there. I know a lot of them are on city property. I can imagine that it would be a bit of a nightmare, but if we did collect some sort of rent from those folks somehow, would that not help us pay for situations like this? Because this is boat number 3, I believe, in the last couple of years they've had to pull out of there, which I find appalling, by the way, but nonetheless, I don't know that the taxpayer of Nelson should be on the hook to clean up somebody else's mess.
Yeah, I think just trying to go back and chase those people and figure out whose boat it was or whatever. So as you know, we don't ourselves have any marina facilities right now. And we have talked about those pins. What do we do around those, and do we regulate them? So it is on our list to look at whether we regulate those. And there's certainly the ones down by the Prestige Marina. There's a fair number there, but there's also a number off private lands down by John's Walk, right, and the Pico decks, and I believe in front of the or by the Prestige, that is a water lot that we might be able to manage, but it is on our long list to because they are growing, the number that are there.
Yeah.
And I think the Prestige is completely full, and the boathouses are completely full. So the only choice you have in Nelson right now is to drop a pin, and so it's likely to increase, not decrease. So I will.
And Kevin, there's no requirement from fisheries, right, to drop a pin. And then do people?
I don't know the regs. They're certainly not enforcing. There's no one from fisheries here to enforce. So there's pins all throughout the lake. So either they don't enforce at all, or there's not. There isn't. But I think we can regulate through our bylaws. So that is on our list.
Even if it's in the water.
I don't know how we go around knowing whose boat it is and how we manage that, but other communities have done that.
Thanks, Kevin. It's surprising, actually, if you walk along the lakeshore all the way down to almost to Red Sands, how many kayaks, canoes, and other pieces of watercraft that are pulled up on the rocks and tied onto the Pico deck, etc. And there's a lot of them, and most of them seem as though they're abandoned. To be honest with you, they've been beaten up by the water there over the years. So I don't, Councillor Renwick, to your point, when you consider the number of boats that are out in front of the city there, it's surprising how few of them that did hit the bottom of the lake over the years too. There's only been a handful. The old pirate ship was up and down there a few times, but.
Well, one of my concerns, Mr. Mayor, is that the minute you put a pin and let people put them out there, how many people are living on there and where's whatever going into the lake? You know,
Yeah.
where are they flushing?
That's
Right?
yeah.
And I know we don't have any policing out there. I just wanted to ask the question of staff because, you know, if you were getting, you know, we all pay money to park everything else, but those folks are parking for free, and there's, you know, they've got a pretty good investment tied up there, and what are they tied up to, and if they break free, and who's responsible, and all the rest. So I know it's just another something to throw on the work pile there, Kevin, but it seems to me like there could be some income there. Long term might be a long term project for the city. I don't know.
Thank you.
And I
Okay,
think-
so we're gonna call the question, Kevin, because we're tight for time again. And,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
All in favor? Carried. Thanks very much. Now we're gonna, nothing else on the agenda. We're just gonna move into the closed meeting. So I'd like, okay, a motion to, adopt the agenda for the, close the meeting to the public first. Mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Woodward and Councillor Renwick, all in favor? Carried, thank you. A motion to